Chapter 1841. In the Azure Cloud Mansion, some of the high-ranking officials were famous due to their strength. This included Tong Zhang, one of the centurions in the Black Armored Army. Apart from being the strongest person after the captain of the Black Armored Army, he was also the strongest person below the exemplary saint stage in the Azure Cloud Mansion and the entire lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. All these were widely acknowledged by the people. Not only that, but he had even made an announcement asking for whoever below the exemplary saint stage in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who was unconvinced of this to challenge him. No matter who it was, they would become the strongest person below the exemplary saint stage in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land if they could defeat him. Although many people below the exemplary saint stage came to challenge him in the Azure Cloud Mansion, none of them won at all. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Tong Zhang was also known as the legend of the Divine Saint Stage. In the world of the Divine Saint Stage, he was a legend. Based on that, one could imagine how strong he was. Lord Centurion. After Tong Zhang appeared, the 9 black armored guards led by Decurion Lu Quan appeared as well and bowed politely. If one paid attention, one could see that the 9 people led by Lu Quan was looking at Tong Zhang with a hint of reverence in their eyes. In the Black Armored Army, their captain, who was also the commander of the Black Armored Army, was a powerhouse from the older generation. For this reason, they only revered the commander from afar. However, other than revering Tong Zhang, all these young centurions idolized him. In the several hundreds of years of history in the Azure Cloud Mansion, Tong Zhang's innate talent was only inferior to their Lord Mansion Master. Tong Zhang was only in his early 30s this year. Although Zhao Deng felt afraid in front of Tong Zhang, he managed to conceal it and feign anger as he asked in his deep voice, "Centurion Tong Zhang, what are you trying to do?" He would not even be able to fight against an ordinary powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Saint Stage, let alone Tong Zhang, who was invincible among all the Divine Saint Stage powerhouses. His cultivation base was currently only at the Mastery Divine Saint Stage. Tong Zhang's originally cold face turned even colder. "What am I trying to do?" Tong Zhang asked upon hearing Zhao Deng's words. Meanwhile, the temperature in the surroundings seemed to drop by a few degrees. "It's a blessing that Lord Mansion Master wants to personally welcome you. I'm giving you 2 options. 1, you can die here. 2, you can follow me back to the central main hall." Tong Zhang's tone turned colder as time went by, that it sent shivers up people's spines. Upon hearing Tong Zhang's words, Zhao Deng's expressions turned grave as he said, "Tong Zhang, I'm the Vice Mansion Master of the Mystical Sky Mansion. If you dare to touch me, the Mystical Sky Mansion won't let you go." At this moment, Zhao Deng had no choice but to use the Mystical Sky Mansion as his shield. Unfortunately, Tong Zhang did not seem to care about the Mystical Sky Mansion. His icy voice continued to say, "I'll give you a span of 3 breaths to make your choice. If you still haven't made a choice in a span of 3 breaths, I'll take it that you're choosing the former option." Currently, the span of 1 breath has gone by. Horror dawned on Zhao Deng's face when he discovered it was futile even when he used the Mystical Sky Mansion's name. It seemed as though he was grasping at straws as he said, "My father is Zhao Jin, the guardian of the Mystical Sky Mansion. He's at the exemplary saint stage." When Zhao Deng saw using the Mystical Sky Mansion's name did not work, he switched to using his father's name instead. 1 more breath left. However, it seemed as though Tong Zhang did not hear him as he continued to count down in his cold voice. Only the span of 1 breath was left. Colors drained from Zhao Deng's face, and he finally accepted his fate. "I'll follow you to the Azure Cloud Mansion's central main hall." There was no way he could resist in front of Tong Zhang at all. If he wanted to live, he could only compromise. The 9 black armored guards led by Lu Quan looked at Zhao Deng in disdain when they saw him obediently following Tong Zhang. This Vice Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion, Zhao Deng, is really a disgrace to the Mystical Sky Mansion. In front of Lord Centurion Tong, he gave up in less than the span of 3 breaths. I really wonder how Zhao Deng became a Vice Mansion Master in the Mystical Sky Mansion in the first place. Don't they have anyone else in the Mystical Sky Mansion? I heard that Zhao Deng's father is one of the 2 great guardians of the Mystical Sky Mansion. I guess it must be due to nepotism that he managed to become a Vice Mansion Master. I see. At this moment, Zhao Deng had not left very far with Tong Zhang. Due to this reason, he, naturally, heard the 9 black armored guards' discussion that was filled with disdain. Was it not said that the Azure Cloud Mansion's Black Armored Army was highly disciplined and taciturn? Why were their words so mean then? At this moment, Zhao Deng seemed to have forgotten how arrogant he had acted earlier when faced with the 9 black armored guards. In the central main hall of the Azure Cloud Mansion's main mansion. Enter. Tong Zhang glanced coldly at Zhao Deng. After Zhao Deng obediently entered the central main hall, Tong Zhang moved to stand at the great entrance of the central main hall like a fearsome god guarding the door. Who was inside the central main hall that Tong Zhang, the Black Armored Army's centurion, had to personally guard the door? As soon as Zhao Deng entered, he saw a person. Moreover, it was someone he knew. Ji Yu Li. In the large central main hall, other than Zhao Deng who had just entered, only Ji Yu Li was inside. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, why are you here? Ji Yu Li frowned when he saw Zhao Deng. Based on Ji Yu Li's expression, it was obvious he did not know Zhao Deng would show up. Zhao Deng did not answer him. What could he say anyway? He could not just say that he had followed him here, could he? However, Ji Yu Li was not an idiot. He very quickly guessed the reason behind Zhao Deng's presence. Why you followed me? I only want to know where Ling Tian is. The direction you were headed after leaving the mystical sky mansion is the same with the direction that he went in previously. Do you dare to say you're not here for him? When Zhao Deng spoke of Ling Tian, he became irritated. If it was not for that guy, his son would not have died. If it was not for that guy, he would not have followed Ji Yu Li and be trapped in the Azure Cloud Mansion now. Not only that, but until now, he still did not know what the intention of the Mansion Master of the Azure Cloud Mansion was. How did he know he would come to the Azure Cloud Mansion? Why did he want to welcome him personally? Ji Yu Li felt delighted when he saw how Zhao Deng still dared to be so daring even in the Azure Cloud Mansion. This was his junior brother's territory. Meanwhile, he did not bother to conceal anything and admitted to his intention of coming here. That's right, I'm here to look for junior brother Ling Tian. In that case, why can't I follow you? Zhao Deng smirked. However, it really didn't cross my mind that your father, Ji Yu Yun, actually knows a high-ranking official from the Azure Cloud Mansion. I'm sure that person must have a high position in the Azure Cloud Mansion since they're willing to hide Ling Tian for your father. When Zhao Deng spoke, he had a knowing expression on his face as though he had already figured everything out. When Zhao Deng saw Ji Yu Li did not reply even after a long time, he assumed that he had guessed correctly. Why aren't you talking? Are you speechless because I figured everything out? At this moment, Zhao Deng seemed to have forgotten the reason he was here. Otherwise, he would not have said such words. Which Azure Cloud Mansion's high-ranking official would dare to bring their personal guest to the central main hall? The central main hall was the place where the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion welcomed his guests. Moreover, Ji Yu Li did not respond because he was shocked by Zhao Deng's words. However, he finally remembered something. Zhao Deng was unaware of his junior brother's true identity. Yes, you've figured it all out. I'm completely speechless. Ji Yu Li nodded his head in assent when faced with Zhao Deng's arrogance. Ji Yu Li had a, "You're right," expression outwardly. However, inwardly, he was scolding Zhao Deng for being an idiot. Zhao Deng no longer acted arrogantly since it seems like Ji Yu Li was acting sensible this time. For this reason, he felt something was amiss. The current Ji Yu Li was completely different from the Ji Yu Li he knew. Was Ji Yu Li someone who would compromise this easily? Naturally, not. At this instant, Zhao Deng calmed down again. After he had calmed down, he began to remember where he was. The central main hall of the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion is where the group of high-ranking officials gather for meetings. It's also a place for the Mansion Master to welcome his guests. Ji Yu Li, don't tell me you're also. Just as Zhao Deng was about to ask Ji Yu Li if he was also invited here by the Mansion Master of the Azure Cloud Mansion as well, a voice resonated from outside in a timely manner. Zhao Deng was no stranger to this voice. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, it has been such a long time since we last saw each other. As the sound resonated, a figure also walked into the central main hall. The person who came in was none other than Duan Ling Tian. Junior brother Ling Tian. Now that he had finally seen Duan Ling Tian, an expression of joy appeared on Ji Yu Li's face immediately as he went to greet him. Senior brother Ji Yu Li, you're finally here. Duan Ling Tian laughed out loud when faced with Ji Yu Li who enthusiastically greeted him. Ling Tian. When Duan Ling Tian and Ji Yu Li were finally reunited, Zhao Deng's solemn voice interrupted them. I can't believe you're alive. Tell me, who killed my son that day? Zhao Deng asked in an interrogative tone. Duan Ling Tian nodded at Ji Yu Li before looking at Zhao Deng once again. Smiling nonchalantly, he said, Vice Mansion Master Zhao, do you even need to ask? Naturally, it was me who killed your son. You're not qualified. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, not only was Zhao Dang not angry, but he had a derisive expression on his face instead. His son, Zhao Ji, was at the early divine saint stage. How could he possibly be killed by Duan Lingtian? What, Vice Mansion Master Zhao, do you think even though your son is an early divine saint stage devil cultivator, I wouldn't be able to kill him? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile and narrowed eyes. Early divine saint stage devil cultivator. Before Zhao Dang could reply, Ji Yuli was taken back. Zhao Ji was an early divine saint stage devil cultivator. Based on his knowledge, Zhao Ji seemed to be an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator 2 years ago. Even if he made a breakthrough, he was supposed to be a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator. Chapter 1842, Isn't it so? Zhao Dang looked at Duan Lingtian disdainfully and smirked. My son was fortunate enough to have found a prehistoric devil beast's relic and obtained the prehistoric devil beast's legacy. For this reason, he managed to break through to the early divine saint stage from the intermediate eminent stage in less than 2 years. Although your innate talent is high, your cultivation base is only at the peak of the eminent saint stage. You said you killed my son. What rubbish. The prehistoric devil beast's relic. The early divine saint stage. Ji Yuli was still shocked over Duan Lingtian's words. However, when he heard Zhao Dang's words, he could tell Duan Lingtian was telling the truth. Zhao Ji was so lucky. To think he found a prehistoric devil beast's relic and obtained its legacy. He even managed to break through to the early divine saint stage from the intermediate refined saint stage in less than 2 years. When he thought of how he had only broken through to the early divine saint stage recently after arduously cultivating for a long time, he felt a sense of unfairness. The prehistoric devil beast's relic. The prehistoric devil beast's legacy. Upon hearing Zhao Dang's words, Duan Lingtian was momentarily stunned before he burst out laughing. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, did Zhao Ji tell you he found the prehistoric devil beast's relic and obtained its legacy? Duan Lingtian looked at Zhao Dang with a peculiar smile on his face. What are you laughing about? Zhao Dang's expression turned grave. He did not know why Duan Lingtian was laughing. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, it seems like your son wasn't honest even in front of you. Well, indeed, if it wasn't for the fact that he thought that I'd die for sure, he wouldn't have told me the truth of why his cultivation base had risen so quickly. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhao Dang intently when he reached the end of his sentence. The sneer on his face became even more apparent. What do you mean? What truth? Zhao Dang's expression turned graver. At this moment, Ji Yuli also looked at Duan Lingtian curiously. He did not know what Duan Lingtian was trying to say, but he was looking forward to hearing what Duan Lingtian was going to say next. The truth is Zhao Dang did not find any prehistoric devil beast's relic nor did he obtain any legacy from the prehistoric devil beast. The reason his cultivation base had risen so quickly was due to him cultivating the devouring dark devil technique just like former palace master Zhu from the Heaven Palace. Duan Lingtian answered Zhao Dang's question indifferently. When he reached the end of his sentence, a mocking smile appeared on his face. The devouring dark devil technique. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ji Yuli's eyes narrowed and looked at Zhao Dang with a completely different gaze. Zhao Dang, how dare you allow your son to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique? How very bold of you. Rubbish. Zhao Dang glared at Duan Lingtian as the vast energy in his body was about to surge out. Lingtian, my son is dead. I won't allow you to slander him. Slander. Duan Lingtian laughed. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, I didn't slander your good son. Everything that I know came from his own mouth. Not only that, but he even told me he was the one who arranged the meeting between Palace Master Zhu and Xu Jing, the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion. Perhaps, Palace Master Zhu might not have done what he had done if not for your son's instigation. When he reached the end of his sentence, his gaze turned cold immediately. When Zhao Dang heard Duan Lingtian's words, he fell momentarily silent. He could still remember during that time when he was monitoring Xu Jing, his son had come to the underground secret room where Xu Jing was imprisoned. He had stood at Xu Jing's bedside for a long time. At that time, he had thought his son managed to get Xu Jing to talk, but his son said he had not been able to do so. Naturally, he did not suspect his son at that time. However, now that he heard Duan Lingtian's words, he found the incident peculiar as well. Not only that, but his originally steadfast heart began to waver as well. Don't tell me Jer managed to get Shu Jing to talk to him at that time. Could it be he didn't tell me because he was afraid I wouldn't allow him to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique? Zhao Dang's heart sank the moment he thought of this. If I'm not mistaken, Zhao Ji must have known about how Palace Master Zhu was humiliated by Feng Biyuyi, the deputy of the Mountain Shade Black Market. So he seized the opportunity and fanned the flames in front of Palace Master Zhu. He knew how eager Palace Master Zhu is to seek revenge, he must have persuaded him to do this. He had single-handedly schemed and succeeded in rescuing Shu Jing. In truth, these were all Duan Lingtian's speculations. If I'm not wrong, Zhao Ji must have been absent from the mystical sky mansion when the young girls in the west were turned into dried corpses, right? Not only that, but he should have only returned to the mystical sky mansion after the incident there was revealed, right? Duan Lingtian asked unhurriedly as he looked at Zhao Dang. Upon hearing that, Zhao Dang thought about it carefully. That seemed to be the case. Stop slandering him if you don't have any actual proof. Naturally, although Zhao Dang began to have doubts, he still refused to admit it. Let alone that his son was dead, he would never admit it. Even if his son did not die and had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, he still would not admit it. In fact, those who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique were widely detested in the Dao Martial Saint land. Actual proof. Duan Lingtian smiled. Do you want me to swear on the lightning penalty oath to show you I'm not lying? There's no need. I won't believe you anyway. Zhao Dang immediately rejected Duan Lingtian's proposal as soon as he heard it. However, deep in his heart, he was almost certain his son, Zhao Ji, must have cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. Otherwise, Lingtian would not have dared to swear on the lightning penalty oath. Ji Yuli shared the same thought with Zhao Dang. Zhao Ji actually cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, he deserves to die then. Ji Yuli said coldly. He did not bother with Zhao Dang's piercing gaze that was aimed at him. Fine, we'll drop the subject for now. As for whether Zhao Ji cultivated the devouring dark devil technique or not, I'm sure you know the answer in your heart, Vice Mansion Master Zhao, Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Zhao Dang. Lingtian, I'm going to ask you again. Who killed my son? Does the person who killed him know you? Otherwise, why is my son dead and you're alive? Zhao Dang asked coldly as he glared at Duan Lingtian. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, I've already told you the truth. I was the one who killed Zhao Ji. There's nothing I can do if you refuse to believe me. Faced with Zhao Dang's question again, Duan Lingtian only shook his head. When he reached the end of his sentence, he even shrugged helplessly. Fine, since you said you killed him, can you tell me how did a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage kill a devil cultivator at the early divine saint stage? Zhao Dang's expression turned grave again. He was getting impatient now. If it was not for the fact that he wanted answers from Duan Lingtian, he would have attacked him from the beginning. Well, under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for me to kill Zhao Ji with my cultivation base, Duan Lingtian nodded his head. He agreed with Zhao Dang's words. Under Zhao Dang's watchful gaze, he continued to say, however, no matter how powerful Zhao Ji was, he was still a devil cultivator at the early divine saint stage. In front of me, even a devil cultivator at the peak of the divine saint stage would die, let alone a devil cultivator at the early divine saint stage. When he reached the end of his sentence, his body emitted confidence. Upon hearing his words, both Zhao Dang and Ji Yuli were dumbfounded. Based on his words, he could even kill a devil cultivator at the peak of the divine saint stage. That's right, junior brother Ling Tian has the Devil Seal tablet with him. When he heard Duan Lingtian's words earlier, Ji Yuli was a little skeptical until he recalled Duan Lingtian had the super saint weapon, the Devil Seal tablet. He finally figured it out. With his junior brother's true origin that was equivalent to a powerhouse at the peak of the eminent saint stage, he was indeed able to kill all devil cultivators under the exemplary saint stage once he activated the Devil Seal tablet. He was not lying when he said that he was able to kill a devil cultivator at the peak of the divine saint stage. Naturally, Ji Yuli knew this because he knew about Duan Lingtian's true identity and that he possessed the Devil Seal tablet. However, Zhao Dang did not know about any of these. How ridiculous. Zhao Dang regained his senses and looked at Duan Lingtian mockingly as he said disdainfully, Lingtian, even if you want to lie, at least make it believable. You're a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage. Not only did you brag about killing an early divine saint stage devil cultivator, but you even said you can kill a devil cultivator at the peak of the divine saint stage. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? Perhaps, you think I'm an idiot. When Zhao Deng reached the end of his sentence, he smirked coldly with an, "I'm so smart," expression on his face. Duan Lingtian laughed out loud for a long time before he finally stopped. What are you laughing about? Zhao Deng was furious, feeling humiliated. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, you're indeed an idiot. Under Zhao Deng's infuriated gaze, Duan Lingtian replied indifferently, did you even hear what I said earlier? I said under normal circumstances, it would indeed be very difficult for me to kill Zhao Ji with my cultivation base. However, what if I have a weapon I can rely on? I wonder if you've heard of the Super Saint weapon in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 Great Saint weapons ranking that specializes in restricting devil cultivators. The 10 Great Saint weapons ranking. Super Saint weapon. The Super Saint weapon that specialized in restricting devil cultivators. On top of that, the Devil Seal tablet. A thought immediately appeared in Zhao Deng's mind. As far as he knew, the only Super Saint weapon that could restrict devil cultivators on the 10 Great Saint weapons ranking was the Devil Seal tablet. When the Devil Seal tablet was activated, one could even kill devil cultivators who had a higher cultivation base. The Devil Seal tablet is rumored to be in a young man's possession a few years back. His name seems to be Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, Lingtian. The moment Zhao Deng thought of this, he looked at Duan Lingtian as though he had seen a ghost. Why, you're Duan Lingtian? Impossible. Zhao Deng shook his head in denial and dismissed his own thoughts before Duan Lingtian could even respond. He had seen Duan Lingtian's portrait before. He looked completely different from the Lingtian standing before him. Not only that, but there were no signs of disguise on Lingtian's face at all. Chapter 1843. Currently, Duan Lingtian had hidden his true appearance and was wearing Lingtian's disguise to see Zhao Deng. Impossible. Duan Lingtian replied indifferently when he heard Zhao Deng's words. Do you think it's impossible I'm Duan Lingtian just because you can't detect any signs of disguise on my face? Before Zhao Deng had time to reply, he saw the muscles on Lingtian's face began to shift. Soon after, a brand new face appeared in front of him. If he had not seen this with his own eyes, he would not have believed there was such a marvelous disguising tactic in this world. Duan Lingtian had obviously disguised his appearance, but his divine consciousness could not detect any signs of disguise at all. Why, you're Duan Lingtian? Zhao Deng was momentarily stunned. When he regained his senses, he began to study Duan Lingtian's face and discovered it was identical to the portrait he had seen a few years ago. The person in the portrait was, naturally, none other than Duan Lingtian, who had the Devil Seal tablet in his possession. That's right, I'm Duan Lingtian. Now, do you believe I'm the one who killed your son, Vice Mansion Master Zhao? Duan Lingtian asked mockingly. Zhao Deng's expression turned grave. As soon as he saw Lingtian reverting to his original appearance, he had already realized everything Duan Lingtian said was true. His son was indeed killed by Duan Lingtian. To be more accurate, he was killed by the Devil Seal tablet in his possession. He still remembered the cause of his son's death was due to his soul being destroyed. There were no signs of outer injuries at all. The way the Devil Seal tablet killed a devil cultivator was indeed by destroying a devil cultivator's soul. He had no more questions left. He had finally found his son's killer. Lingtian, wait a minute, I should call you Duan Lingtian instead. Zhao Deng looked at Duan Lingtian. Apart from hatred, there were also hints of greed toward the Devil Seal tablet in his eyes. Thank you for telling me that it was you who killed my son. Since that's the case, I'll grant you a quick and painless death. As soon as he finished speaking, his energy surged out of his body instantly. He charged toward Duan Lingtian without any hesitation. At this moment, only one thought was left in Zhao Deng's mind. He had to kill Duan Lingtian to avenge his son and snatch the Devil Seal tablet. The Devil Seal tablet was one of the 10 Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint weapons ranking. Everyone coveted it. It was only natural that Zhao Deng would covet it as well. Currently, he had completely forgotten that he was in the Azure Cloud Mansion. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would be so bold as to reveal his true appearance and even admit to killing his son. Zhao Deng, at this moment, had completely lost himself in his desire for revenge and greed. How dare you? Just as Zhao Deng's face moved slightly and he was charging forward, a thunderous voice sounded in the main hall. It sounded so loud it felt as though it could shatter one's eardrums. One could tell the voice belonged to an elderly person. Whoosh! At the same time, a ghost-like figure appeared, blocking Zhao Deng's path. Bang! It did not seem like the ghost-like figure made a move, but Zhao Dang, who was fiercely charging out like a gust of wind, was sent flying before he crashed on the ground upside down. Barf! Zhao Dang felt dizzy as soon as he landed, and he immediately opened his mouth and threw up a mouthful of blood. He struggled to get up, but it was futile. He was too heavily injured that he could not stand at all. When Zhao Dang opened his eyes and looked forward, he saw an elderly figure standing in front of Duan Lingtian, shielding him. Rong Yuan. Horror dawned on Zhao Dang's face when he saw the old man shielding Duan Lingtian. Rong Yuan was the right hand of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. He shared the same fame as QMI. He was so powerful that he was only inferior to the mansion master of their mystical sky mansion. He was far more powerful than the two great guardians in their mystical sky mansion. Young mansion master. However, Zhao Dang's eyes widened in confusion when he saw Rong Yuan turned around and respectfully bowed at Duan Lingtian. Young mansion master. Only the son of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion could be addressed as young mansion master by Rong Yuan, right? However, he had never heard about the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion having a son at all. Moreover, Duan Lingtian was his son's killer. Duan Lingtian, Duan Rufeng, both of them have the same surname, Zhao Dang muttered to himself when he regained his senses. His heart instantly sank. Don't tell me Duan Lingtian is the son of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, Duan Rufeng. Wait a minute, if he's the son of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, why would he disguise himself as Lingtian and join the mystical sky mansion? Could it be because of the Saint Martial secret zone? Zhao Dang was still baffled even after mulling over it for a long time. Not even in his wildest dreams did he think the person that Zhao Clan was so eager to kill, whom they thought was a nobody, would turn out to be the son of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Elder Rong. Duan Lingtian smiled in response to Rong Yuan's now. He did not dare to act discourteously toward this old man who had been by his cheapskate father's side for so many years. As for the misunderstanding previously, he knew he had misunderstood the elder after his father gave him an explanation. Rong Yuan had indeed passed the exquisite jade box to his father, but it was his father who had asked Rong Yuan to tell the black armored guard who came to report that Duan Lingtian was a liar. The reason for his father's action was to test his strength. Since the misunderstanding was resolved, there was no grudge between him and Rong Yuan. Young mansion master, how should I deal with this man? Rong Yuan was extremely humble in front of Duan Lingtian. It was as though he regarded Duan Lingtian like he regarded the mansion master, Duan Rufeng. He was loyal to the mansion master, it was only natural for him to treat the son of the mansion master the same way. Restrain him for now, I'll deal with him after this, Duan Lingtian replied. Yes. Rong Yuan nodded his head respectfully. He, then, turned around. With just a raise of his hand, he restrained Zhao Dang who was trying to escape up. The energy of an exemplary saint stage powerhouse that had been transformed into an invisible energy surged into Zhao Dang's body, completely suppressing his energy. Zhao Dang instantly collapsed to the ground. His face was pale. He was turned into an ordinary person immediately. Duan Lingtian strode forward and stood in front of Zhao Dang. He looked at Zhao Dang who was lying on the ground and clicked his tongue as he asked, "Are you okay, Vice Mansion Master Zhao?" Zhao Dang who was lying on the ground had many expressions fleeting across his face. The greed and hatred in his eyes had vanished and were replaced by panic and despair. His son's death and the Devil Seal tablet had all been thrown to the back of his mind at this moment. The most important thing now was his life. Only if he managed to stay alive would he be able to think about the others. If he had died, there was nothing he could do anymore. Young mansion master. At this moment, a respectful voice sounded in the air. A scene that Duan Lingtian did not expect unfolded before his eyes. Zhao Dang, whose energy had been completely suppressed by Rong Yuan and was no different from an ordinary person, knelt in front of him after he struggled to get up. Young mansion master, I didn't know about your background previously. Please forgive me for my offense. I guarantee I'll never offend you again, young mansion master. If you don't believe me, I'm willing to swear on the lightning penalty oath. Zhao Dang had already thrown his pride and honor as the vice mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion away at this moment. There was only one thought left in his mind, and it was to live. He must find a way to live. He had not lived enough yet, and he did not want to die. As expected from both father and son, the apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. Zhao Dang, the way you're begging for mercy now is similar to your son before he died. He begged in this manner as well. If Zhao Dang had shown some integrity, perhaps, Duan Lingtian might have respected him a little. However, the way Zhao Dang was groveling now made him feel disgusted. Although Zhao Dang heard Duan Lingtian's words, he did not dare to reveal the anger he felt in his heart. On the surface, he looked extremely humble. Young mansion master, I'm willing to swear on the lightning penalty oath to become your dog if you're willing to forgive me. From today onward, I'll bite if you ask me to bite without any questions asked. Zhao Dang's demeaning words made Duan Lingtian frown. Was this really the vice mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion? Ji Yuli, who was standing by the side quietly before this, looked at Zhao Dang and rebuked him. Zhao Dang, you're really unworthy of becoming the vice mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion. You're an embarrassment to our Mystical Sky Mansion. However, Zhao Dang did not seem to hear any of Ji Yuli's words at all. He was only staring at Duan Lingtian pitifully as he begged for mercy. At this moment, he only desired to live. As for other matters, he no longer cared about it. Even Rong Yuan had a frown on his face. It was apparent that Zhao Dang's cowardice and him stubbornly clinging to life made him feel disgusted as well. Young mansion master, please, I beg you. Please forgive me this time. Zhao Dang continued to beg for mercy. Elder Rong, I no longer want him in my sight. A glint of hatred flashed across the depth of Duan Lingtian's eyes. He did not want to see this kind of Zhao Dang at all. You're the vice mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion no matter what. To think you'll stoop so low when faced with death. I'm really speechless. No, Zhao Dang's eyes widened in horror when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He continued to struggle on the ground. Since his energy had been completely suppressed, he was like a pig waiting to be slaughtered. Rong Yuan retreat from the central main hall after killing Zhao Dang. Senior uncle, Tong Zhong, the black armored army's centurion who was standing outside the central main hall since earlier, bowed at Rong Yuan when he saw him coming out. Tong Zhong's master was Ku Mi, who shared the same fame with Rong Yuan in the Azure Cloud Mansion. Although Rong Yuan and Ku Mi did not share the same master, both of them had been good friends for many years and regarded each other as blood brothers. For this reason, Rong Yuan's disciples would usually address Ku Mi as junior uncle, while Ku Mi's disciples would address Rong Yuan as senior uncle, since Rong Yuan was much older than Ku Mi in terms of age. After Rong Yuan retreated, only Duan Lingtian and Ji Yuli were left in the main hall. Both of them looked at each other and smiled wryly. Senior brother Ji Yuli. In the end, Duan Lingtian was the first one to break the silence. I'm afraid I won't be able to go to the upper province so soon. I'll most likely have to wait for a year before I can head to the upper province. Duan Lingtian wanted to go to the Dragon Clan's lair and fulfill the 5-year pact after 10 months' time. Chapter 1844. It doesn't matter. Since it's just a year, I'll wait for you. I can use this time to strengthen my cultivation base as well. However, you're the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, and I'm in your territory now. You must get me a good place to cultivate, okay? Ji Yuli joked when he reached the end of his sentence as he nodded. Swish! Almost at the instant when Ji Yuli's words left his mouth, the sound of wind whistling in the air sounded suddenly as an item materialized and charged toward Ji Yuli. However, the speed of the item charging toward him was nothing. With a raise of his hand, Ji Yuli caught the item. He squinted to look at it and discovered it was a light order token that seemed to be made of wood but not quite at the same time. The number 9 was carved on it. When he turned the order token around, he could see it was carved with stone platforms that were floating in the air. Each of the stone platforms had a standalone stone house. 3 tiny words were carved at the bottom right of the drawing: Azure Cloud Platform. This is the key to the Azure Cloud Platform number 9. Ji Yuli gasped as though he had just remembered something. The Azure Cloud Platform was a very good cultivation place in the Azure Cloud Mansion. The spirit gathering formation inside was even directly linked to the quasi-third grade Saint Stone Reserve in the Azure Cloud Mansion. Usually, only outstanding disciples in the Azure Cloud Mansion would be allowed to enter the Azure Cloud Platform to cultivate. This was because one had to be strong to enter the Azure Cloud Platform to cultivate. There was a total of 81 Azure Cloud Platforms, and it was said that they were suspended above the main mansion of Azure Cloud Mansion. Apart from that, they were divided into various ranks as well. There was a total of 9 Azure Cloud Platforms at the highest place. They were positioned in a circle and were named Azure Cloud Platform number 1, Azure Cloud Platform number 2, Azure Cloud Platform number 3, until the Azure Cloud Platform number 9. It was said that these 9 Azure cloud platforms had a cultivation environment that was in no way inferior to the cultivation place of the high-ranking officials in the Azure Cloud Mansion. The key to the Azure Cloud Platform number 9 was now in Ji Yuli's hand. Only those in possession of a key could enter and cultivate there. Below the 9 Azure Cloud platforms that were positioned in a circle were more Azure Cloud platforms that were positioned in a circle. There was a total of 18 of them. The cultivation environment of these 18 Azure Cloud platforms was slightly inferior to the 9 platforms above them. Below these 18 platforms, more Azure Cloud platforms were positioned in a circle as well. There was a total of 54 platforms and the cultivation environment was inferior to the 2 circles of platforms above it. However, it was not like the cultivation environment was bad, they were still much better than the normal places where Azure Cloud Mansion's disciples usually cultivated. Since the 81 Azure Cloud platforms had such a good cultivation environment, it was only natural that many disciples wanted to enter and cultivate there. However, those who wished to enter the Azure Cloud platform to cultivate must be strong. If someone weak occupied one of the Azure Cloud platforms for the time being, sooner or later it would be snatched away by a stronger person. As expected from the son of Guardian Gu from the mystical Sky Mansion. To think you even know about our Azure Cloud Mansion's Azure Cloud platform. This is indeed the key to Azure Cloud platform number 9. I've already told the elder in charge of the Azure Cloud platform that you'll be entering Azure Cloud platform number 9 to cultivate. Our Azure Cloud Mansion's disciples won't compete for Azure Cloud Platform number 9 with you so you can cultivate with ease. A voice suddenly sounded as a figure appeared like a ghost in the middle of the central main hall. The person who came was none other than Duan Rufeng, the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. He was the one who had given the key to Azure Cloud Platform number 9 to Ji Yuli. Father. Duan Lingtian felt a sense of warmth when he saw how Duan Rufeng had arranged everything for him. Greetings, Mansion Master Duan. Ji Yuli bowed at Duan Rufeng as soon as he regained his senses. I heard from Tian'er that you and your father have taken good care of him when he was in the mystical Sky Mansion. I, Duan Rufeng, won't forget this kindness. Duan Rufeng nodded his head toward Ji Yuli and smiled. However, since you're Tian'er's friend, and he addresses your father as Uncle Ji Yu, you can also just address me as Uncle Duan. There's no need to be so polite and address me as Mansion Master Duan. Yes, Uncle Duan. Ji Yuli did not object to this and immediately changed his way of addressing Duan Rufeng. However, in the next instant, Ji Yuli returned the key to Azure Cloud Platform number 9 to Duan Rufeng. Duan Rufeng was puzzled as he looked at Ji Yuli. Ji Yuli quickly said, Uncle Duan, I've long heard that the Azure Cloud platforms in the Azure Cloud Mansion is the best benchmark to test one's strength. For this reason, I'd like to compete for the best Azure Cloud platform as an Azure Cloud Mansion's disciple for this time instead of just getting a free pass. Ji Yuli's had always had a straight character. He felt uncomfortable that he was given special privileges without doing anything to earn it. He might as well rely on his strength and forge a path for himself. There was a hint of praise in Duan Rufeng's eyes when he heard Ji Yuli's words. Without saying anything, he put away the key to Azure Cloud Platform 9 platform. Since this is what you want, I'll agree to it. However, I must remind you that without this key to Azure Cloud Platform number 9, there would be difficult levels for you to go through if you want to enter the top 9 Azure Cloud platforms to cultivate. In our Azure Cloud Mansion, due to the existence of the Black Armored Army, many disciples at the Divine Saint stage and above aren't willing to become ordinary elders since they all want to compete for the position of a centurion in the Black Armored Army. This is because once they become an ordinary elder, they won't be able to enter the Black Armored Army. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Duan Rufeng asked when he reached the end of his sentence. I understand, Uncle Duan. Ji Yuli nodded. As for Duan Lingtian, who had already returned to the Azure Cloud Mansion for quite some time, he obviously knew what his father was trying to say. Due to the rules in Azure Cloud Mansion that dictated elders were not allowed to enter the Black Armored Army, many Azure Cloud Mansion's disciples who were at the Divine Saint stage and above were not willing to become the Azure Cloud Mansion's elders. For this reason, they were willing to discard the top-tier cultivation environment they could obtain and sit by idly and choose the Azure Cloud platforms, a much riskier place, instead. Each of the Azure Cloud Mansion's elder had their own cultivation place and the cultivation atmosphere was comparable to the 9 best Azure Cloud platforms. For this reason, there were many disciples at the Divine Saint stage and above, other than the group of eminent saint stage disciples, competing for the Azure Cloud platforms. At the very least, the top 9 Azure Cloud platforms were usually occupied by the Azure Cloud Mansion's disciples at the Divine Saint stage. According to Gu Li's words, he wanted to make his way up in the Azure Cloud platforms and snatch the best cultivation place using his own strength. Perhaps, he might even gain something during this process. It was definitely not something he would gain if he had sat idly and just accepted what was given to him. Duan Rufeng respected Gu Li's decision. It was only natural Duan Lingtian respected it as well. Senior brother Gu Li, all the best to you then. I'll come and visit when I'm free. Duan Lingtian looked at Gu Li and smiled. Why, you don't want to make your way up into the Azure Cloud platforms, junior brother Lingtian? Gu Li asked with a smile. With my current cultivation base, it's completely impossible for me to get one of the top 9 Azure Cloud platforms. Not only that, but my time is limited during this time. Duan Lingtian shook his head. If he did not use the Jasper Celestial Sword, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples at the Divine Saint stage and above. If he went to the Azure Cloud platform, he could not use the Jasper Celestial Sword at all. There would definitely be bloodshed every time he wielded the Jasper Celestial Sword. Those who cultivated on the Azure Cloud platforms were all mystical Sky Mansion's disciples. They were his people. Naturally, he would not use the Jasper Celestial Sword against them. 10 months were not a long time. Duan Lingtian had to have the best cultivation atmosphere. He did not have time to fight his way up in the Azure Cloud platforms. Moreover, he wanted to enter the 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda to cultivate, so he must have an absolutely tranquil and undisturbed cultivation place. As the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, his father easily provided him with such a place. Due to all these reasons, he did not plan to cultivate on the Azure Cloud platform. Perhaps, he might go in the future. However, that would have to wait until he had fulfilled the 5-year pact. Junior brother Lingtian, did you encounter some problems? Gu Li knew Duan Lingtian was not afraid of trouble. Therefore, when he heard Duan Lingtian's words, he instantly sensed a hint of danger. Upon hearing Gu Li's words, Duan Lingtian glanced at Duan Rufeng as though asking for his permission. Duan Rufeng nodded his head. Senior brother Gu Li, Duan Lingtian began to tell Gu Li about the 5-year pact between him and Diju from the Dragon Clan. Diju, that 5-clawed golden dragon from the Dragon Clan. Horror dawned on Gu Li's face when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. His eyes were wide as he quickly said, "No, you can't go, junior brother Lingtian. It's too dangerous." Currently, Gu Li was beside himself with worry. It was as though he was the one who would be facing danger soon. Don't worry, senior brother Gu Li. There are 10 months left. I have faith in myself. Duan Lingtian smiled. What faith are you talking about? Gu Li remained unconvinced even when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Diju is the 5-clawed golden dragon from the Dragon Clan's imperial family. Although he's not in his prime yet, his strength is comparable to some of those weaker 5-clawed divine dragon elders. Moreover, you even said so yourself, he was at the peak of the Divine Saint stage 5 years ago. Now that 5 years have gone by, he might have entered the Exemplary Saint stage. Even if we take a step back and say that he hasn't entered the Exemplary Saint stage, he's still at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. He's not someone you can fight with. Although you have the Devil Seal tablet, it can only deal with devil cultivators. Diju the 5-clawed golden dragon is definitely not a devil cultivator. Gu Li said with fear on his face. For this reason, it's okay even if you don't fulfill this 5-year pact, junior brother Lingtian. Nobody would say you're a coward even if news of this spread out. After all, when he made a name for himself in this world, you weren't even born yet. Senior brother Gu Li, there's no need for you to dissuade me from going. Duan Lingtian shook his head. I've already made up my mind regarding this matter. Don't worry, I won't gamble with my life. Moreover, you've known me for quite some time. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would look for trouble for myself? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile when he reached the end of his sentence. Gu Li was stunned. Now that he thought about it, ever since he met his junior brother, he was indeed someone who would not go looking for trouble. One example was the death duel that took place outside of the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death where junior brother Lingtian had overpowered Zhao Kun, a Zhao clan's disciple, and killed him in a domineering manner when everyone looked down on him. Junior brother Lingtian, it's different this time, Ji Yuli smiled wryly. Your opponent this time is not Zhao Kun but Di Ju. Chapter 1845. In the end, Ji Yuli was still unable to change Duan Lingtian's mind. In fact, no matter who it was, nobody could change his mind. This was because he was confident he could defeat Di Ju and snatch the opportunity to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool. After Ji Yuli went to the Azure Cloud platform, Duan Lingtian returned to his father's residence and returned to the room that his mother had long prepared for him. In the entire Azure Cloud mansion, other than those special spirit pools, the residence of Mansion Master Duan Rufeng was undoubtedly the best cultivation place. After all, it was directly linked to the quasi-third-grade Saint Stone Reserve. This place was shrouded with heaven and earth spirit energy all year round, similar to fog surrounding a mountain. However, with Duan Lingtian's current needs, the spirit pool did not suit him even though it was good. This was because he would quickly finish absorbing the liquefied heaven and earth spirit energy in the spirit pool in a short time. At that time, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings might deplete and affect his cultivation. Not only that, the supply would not be able to meet his demand even if all of the spirit pools in the Azure Cloud Mansion were given to him. For this reason, it was better for him to obediently stay in his father's residence to cultivate. Despite Duan Lingtian being in the Azure Cloud Mansion for so many days now, this news did not spread out at all. Even in the Azure Cloud Mansion, only a few people were privy to him being the young mansion master. Currently, only those few exemplary Saint Stage powerhouses below his father and some of the trustworthy members in the mansion knew he was the young mansion master. Those who knew he was in the Azure Cloud Mansion were even fewer. The reason he kept such a low profile was due to the Devilseal tablet in his hands. The Devilseal tablet was one of the 10 great super saint weapons in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 great saint weapons ranking. Even an upper province powerhouse would covet the weapon. For this reason, for Duan Lingtian and the Azure Cloud Mansion's safety, Duan Rufeng did not announce the news of Duan Lingtian being his son since the name, Duan Lingtian, was currently very sensitive in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. As long as this name was mentioned, the Devilseal tablet would come to mind immediately. The most important thing right now is to transform the Golden Crow's wings to the second form. At that time, I'll be able to break through to the early eminent saint stage as well. After I've broken through to the early eminent saint stage, it won't be a problem for me to further raise it to the intermediate eminent saint stage before the 5-year pact reaches its deadline. Although sounded like he was very confident before this, he was mainly trying to boost his morale. Was the elementary devouring tactic something he could master just because he wanted to? Could he break through to the intermediate eminent saint stage just because he wanted to? If he could not master the high-grade divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and was unable to break through to the intermediate eminent saint stage, what could he use to battle with Diju the 5-clawed golden dragon apart from using the Jasper celestial sword? If he did not have the elementary devouring tactic, and his cultivation base did not break through to the intermediate eminent saint stage, he was not confident he would be able to defeat Diju without using the Jasper celestial sword even if he had comprehended the third stage of the sovereign hard sword and relied on the divine ability, the Golden Crow's wings. In terms of brute strength, he did not have any advantage at all. Although his body was a lot stronger than a 6-clawed divine dragon with the same cultivation base, and a 5-clawed divine dragon could not compare to him at all, even if he had broken through to the intermediate eminent saint stage, his body would be equivalent to the body of a 6-clawed divine dragon at the mastery eminent saint stage at most. Although a 6-clawed divine dragon was much tougher than a 5-clawed divine dragon, how could a mastery eminent saint stage 6-clawed divine dragon be compared to a 5-clawed golden dragon at the peak of the divine saint stage when it came to the toughness of body? The 5-clawed golden dragons were the elites among the 5-clawed divine dragons. No matter which aspect it was, they were much superior compared to 6-clawed divine dragons. I almost forgot that Diju's strength is not something a human martial cultivator can compare to. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of the dragon's powerful body, his expression turned grim immediately. Previously, he was confident because he had forgotten Diju was different from an ordinary martial cultivator at the peak of the divine saint stage and the early exemplary saint stage. He only just remembered that Diju was a 5-clawed golden dragon. A 5-clawed golden dragon at the peak of the divine saint stage possessed a ridiculously strong body. What about a 5-clawed golden dragon at the early exemplary saint stage then? Duan Lingtian felt chills running up his spine just by thinking about it. He instantly felt the pressure bearing down on him. It felt so heavy that he almost suffocated. Faced with this pressure, Duan Lingtian immediately entered the third level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda and greedily absorbed the heaven and earth spirit energy to temper his golden crow's wings. The golden crow's wings was changing at every minute and second. It would not take long before it would successfully transform into its second form. At that time, he would no longer have to suppress his cultivation base, and he could break through to the early eminent saint stage in one fell swoop. While Duan Lingtian was working hard in tempering the golden crow's wings, it was not tranquil in the faraway mystical sky mansion. De danger! When the mystical sky mansion's guardian Zhao Jin saw the shattered soul pearl, his eyes turned as wide as saucers. His eyes were completely bloodshot. Bang, 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 bang. Zhao Jin's robes fluttered on his body as his hairband snapped and his salt and pepper hair fluttered in the air as well. The table and chair in the huge side palace suddenly trembled and before the sound of a crack sounded. No matter who you are, you'll have to repay with your life for daring to kill my son. Zhao Jin said unhurriedly. One could see his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. Although his voice was not loud, it contained terrifying killing intent. The shattered soul pearl belonged to Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang from the mystical sky mansion who died in the Azure Cloud Mansion. Naturally, Zhao Jin was unaware that Zhao Dang had gone to the Azure Cloud Mansion and had even died there. Faced with the powerful Rong Yuan, Zhao Dang did not even have time to send a message before he died. In less than 1 month, his grandson and son had died. This greatly affected Zhao Jin. He was so furious he almost went crazy. Meanwhile, an uproar had also broken out in the mystical sky mansion. Zhao Dang, the vice mansion master of mystical skew mansion, did not only leave behind one soul pearl in the mystical sky mansion. Other than the soul pearl in his own residence, he had another soul pearl in the inner mansion of the main mansion of mystical sky mansion. Today, when a mystical sky mansion's disciple performed his daily routine and checked on the soul pearls, he noticed that Zhao Dang's soul pearl had shattered. The mystical sky mansion's disciple was horrified, and he immediately reported the matter. There was no wall in this world that did not have a crack. Once the news was reported, it spread like wildfire through the mystical sky mansion. Hey, did you hear? Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang is dead. No way, Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang is strong. Apart from that, his father is Guardian Zhao Jin, who would dare to kill him? Are you sure your news is not fake? It must be real. It's said that his soul pearl has shattered. Who would be so daring to kill Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang? As an uproar broke out in the mystical sky mansion, Mansion Master Meng Qing of Mystical Sky was also alerted by this matter. He immediately gathered all the high-ranking officials who were in the mystical sky mansion's estate. Among these high-ranking officials, the ones with lower positions were the Four Peaks Elders while the ones with the higher positions were the Vice Mansion Masters and the Guardians. When Guardian Guc Yun arrived, everyone had arrived except for Zhao Jin. However, after waiting for a moment, he finally made his appearance. My condolences, Guardian Zhao. When Meng Qing saw Zhao Jin, he sighed and gave his condolences. My condolences, Guardian Zhao. After Meng Qing, the group of mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials, including Guc Yun, also spoke up to console him. Naturally, some of the words were just empty words. There was a hint of pleasure in their eyes instead. Thank you, Mansion Master. Thank you, everyone. Zhao Jin's voice was a little hoarse. His body emitted a cold and unapproachable aura. Guardian Zhao, I've gathered everyone here to discuss the death of Vice Mansion Master Zhao. No matter who the killer is, the mystical sky mansion won't let him go for being so bold as to kill a Vice Mansion Master of the mystical sky mansion. Meng Qing voiced out his stance. Naturally, the most important thing now is to find who killed Vice Mansion Master Zhao. Does anyone have any clues about Vice Mansion Master Zhao's whereabouts? Meng Qing glanced at everyone present on the scene. Lord Mansion Master. The moment Meng Qing's words left his mouth, a mystical sky mansion's elder chimed in. A few days ago, I was on patrol near the Earth Palace, and I saw Vice Mansion Master Zhao rushing in the direction of the south. That's right. Before he left, Ji Yu Li, Guardian Gu's son, was also headed south. In the mystical sky mansion, the heaven, earth, mystical, and yellow palaces were each situated at the north, south, west, and east. When one left the main mansion to head south, one would definitely have to pass the Earth Palace. South, Meng Qing frowned. When Guc Yun heard this mystical sky mansion's elder words, his expression turned grave as his heart jolted. The moment my son left, Zhao Dang also headed south. It seems like he intended to tail my son to find little Tian. As one of the two mystical sky mansion's guardians, Jiu Xiyun was a veteran. It was not difficult for him to figure this out. The moment he thought of this, he broke out in cold sweat for his son. However, when he remembered how Zhao Dang had died but his son's soul pearl was still intact, he heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he could faintly figure out what had happened. To think Zhao Dang actually dared to have ill intention toward little Tian. I think it's very likely he's killed by a powerhouse from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Naturally, he did not verbalize his thoughts even though he had guessed the cause of Zhao Dang's death. Although he and Zhao Jin were guardians of the mystical sky mansion, they did not interact much with each other. Apart from that, his son had suffered from several assassination attempts before. He had suspected it was Zhao Jin's doings, but it was unfortunate he could not find any proof. It was only until his son had announced that he did not intend to remain in the mystical sky mansion and was thinking of heading to the upper province that the assassination attempts had stopped. At that time, he had already confirmed that the person who was behind the assassination attempts was Zhao Jin. Part of it was also because he found out unintentionally that Zhao Jin wanted a disciple from the Zhao clan to be the mansion master of mystical sky mansion. For this reason, he tried to destroy everyone who obstructed his plan. Chapter 1846. South, Ji Yu Li. Mansion Master Meng Qing frowned upon hearing the mystical sky mansion's elder's words and looked at Ji Yu Xiyun. Guardian Ji Yu, do you know why Ji Yu Li was headed south? My son went to look for a friend before they head to the upper province together, Ji Yu Xiyun answered. He did not say that Ji Yu Li went to look for Ling Tian. Ji Yu Li is fine, right? Meng Qing asked. Thank you for your concern, Mansion Master. Ji Yu Li's fine. Ji Yu Xiyun shook his head. If something happened to his son, he would not have been so calm as he currently was. Guardian Ji Yu, can you tell everyone which friend your son went to look for? Zhao Jin asked in his deep voice as his eyes glinted coldly. Guardian Zhao, it's no concern of yours who my son looks for, right? Moreover, my son left before your son, Zhao Dang, did. Don't tell me you think my son asked someone to kill your son. Ji Yu Xiyun said mockingly. Zhao Ji's expression turned grave, but he could not come up with a retort. What could he say? Could he say that his son tailed Ji Yu Li and something had happened to him? However, as various expressions fleeted across Zhao Jin's face, he gritted his teeth as though he had made up his mind. Zhao Jin looked at Meng Qing and said, Mansion Master, the reason my son left the mystical sky mansion a few days ago was to tail Ji Yu Li, Guardian Gu's son. A commotion instantly broke out. Nobody expected such words to come out of Zhao Jin's mouth. Zhao Dang was tailing Ji Yu Li. What was he trying to do? Many people began to look at Zhao Jin with a peculiar gaze. As expected, the moment Meng Qing heard Zhao Jin's words, his expression turned grave immediately. Guardian Zhao, you mean, something happened to Zhao Dang because he was tailing Ji Yu Li? Yes. Zhao Jin nodded his head confidently and glanced at Ji Yu Xiyun. How ridiculous. Ji Yu Xiyun smirked. Zhao Jin, let alone the fact that my son is not as strong as your son was, and it's impossible for him to kill him, even if my son killed Zhao Dang, he was the one who asked for it in the first place. I really don't know where you get your courage from, to admit that your son was tailing my son. Please don't tell me the reason Zhao Dang tailed my son was to watch my son's silhouette from afar. My son's orientation is normal. He doesn't have that kind of hobby at all. The first half of Ji Yu Xiyun's sentence sounded normal, but the second half of his sentence made everyone look at Zhao Jin with an even more peculiar gaze. They did not expect Guardian Ji Yu to have such a sharp tongue. What did he mean by his son has a normal orientation, and he did not have that kind of hobby? Was he saying that Zhao Dang's orientation was abnormal and had that kind of hobby? Goosebumps immediately appeared the moment they thought of this. Ji Yu Xiyun. Zhao Jin became furious when faced with everyone's peculiar gaze. It almost sounded like a roar as he said, the dead needs to be respected. Don't you think you've crossed the line by dishonoring my son? Crossed the line? Ji Yu Xiyun smirked. Zhao Jin, are you serious? You're the first one to pull my son into this mess to wash away your own son's wrongdoing. I've crossed the line, but you haven't. Enough. Meng Qing snapped in his deep voice to calm things down. Guardian Zhao, why would Zhao Dang tail Ji Yu Li? Meng Qing shifted his piercing gaze to Zhao Jin. Mansion Master, I'm sure you know about my grandson's death, right? Until now, all of the clues that my son, Zhao Dang, and I have gathered point toward Ling Tian. We want to find him, but we don't have any news about him at all. For this reason, we had no choice but to make plans that revolve around Ji Yuli. At this moment, Zhao Jin could not longer hide some of the matters. It did not matter since he had no intention of killing Ji Yuli after all. As for killing Ling Tian, he naturally hid his killing intent in front of Meng Qing. We just want to find Ling Tian through Ji Yuli so that we can ask him if he knew who killed my son. Don't tell me it's wrong of us to do this. When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, he seemed miserable and wretched. At this moment, even Ji Yuxian kept quiet. He did not add insult to injury. Although he felt Zhao Jin's son and grandson only had themselves to blame, it was not suitable for him to voice out what was in his mind at this moment. Guardian Ji Yuli went to find Ling Tian, am I right? Meng Qing looked at Ji Yuxian. Yes. Ji Yuxian nodded. When he saw Meng Qing was going to further question him, he quickly added, however, I've no idea where he went to look for Ling Tian. He only told me he's going to look for Ling Tian to head to the upper province together. Perhaps, at this moment, they've already left the lower province and arrived at the upper province. Meng Qing nodded his head before he said, with Ji Yuli and Ling Tian's strength, they're no match for Vice Mansion Master Zhao even if they join forces. In this case, it must be someone else who killed Vice Mansion Master Zhao. Guardian Zhao, I'll give you the authority to be in charge of the investigation of Vice Mansion Master Zhao's death and search the south. If you need anything, the entire mystical Sky Mansion and I will give our best in helping you. Meng Qing promised as he looked at Zhao Jin. Meng Qing's words undoubtedly meant Zhao Jin could investigate this matter without restraint. The mystical Sky Mansion would support him. The reason Zhao Jin had made an appearance today was for the sake of these words from Meng Qing. Otherwise, he would have long gone and investigated this by himself. He knew very well that even if he had the entire force of the Zhao clan to investigate the cause of his son's death, it would not be as effective as the force of the entire mystical Sky Mansion. Now that he had heard the words he wanted from Meng Qing, he would spare no efforts in investigating the south. Days after days continued to pass before he finally arrived in the vicinity of the Azure Cloud Mansion. Guardian Zhao Jin of Mystical Sky Mansion requests to see the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Zhao Jin cupped his hands together in front of his chest and bowed in the air as he hovered in the air. His tone was humble and polite. If one paid close attention, one could see the layer of sweat on his forehead. It was apparent even the Guardian of Mystical Sky Mansion felt wary against the Azure Cloud Mansion. Actually, Zhao Jin did not intend to enter the territory of the Azure Cloud Mansion, but when he made one round around the Azure Cloud Mansion, he still did not encounter any clues. The moment he thought of how the Azure Cloud Mansion's black armored army usually guarded the Crouching Dragon Lake, he thought they might have some clues regarding his son, Zhao Dang. For this reason, he braced himself before he entered the Crouching Dragon Lake and announced his intention to meet the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. He wanted the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion to ask the black armored guards guarding the Crouching Dragon Lake if they had seen his son, Zhao Dang. I'm Guardian Zhao Jin representing the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion to look for Mansion Master Duan. Zhao Jin stood straighter when he recalled the promise made by his Mansion Master. Boom, 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 comma. Soon after, 10 black armored guards appeared. The Decurion, who was the leader, looked at him instantly and asked, "You're Guardian Zhao Jin from the Mystical Sky Mansion?" Yes. Zhao Jin nodded. You must be the Decurion, right? The reason I came is to look for Mansion Master Duan on behalf of the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion. Please pass this message on. The Decurion nodded. Please wait here for a moment. Zhao Jin agreed and did not act arrogantly just because the other party was only an eminent saint stage martial cultivator. As the saying went, you have to be humble when you're trapped in a difficult situation. Since he had a favor to ask from the Azure Cloud Mansion, it would not be worth it if he offended the Azure Cloud Mansion over some petty matters. Guardian Zhao Jin from the Mystical Sky Mansion wants to see Lord Mansion Master on behalf of the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion. Even the Black Armored Army's Decurion was not qualified to meet the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. For this reason, the person who first received this news was Rong Yuan. Isn't Zhao Jin Zhao Dang's father? A sneer appeared on his face as he recalled this tiny fact. After giving out his order to the Black Armored Army's Decurion, the Decurion turned to leave. Bring him to the central main hall to wait. Just as the Decurion turned around to leave, Rong Yuan's voice resonated again and entered his ears through voice transmission. Tell your subordinates to keep their mouths shut about Zhao Jin's visit to the Azure Cloud Mansion. The Decurion came to a halt in the air. After replying in a respectful manner, he began to leave. Yes. Although Rong Yuan did not hold any position in the Black Armored Army, from the commander to the ordinary guards in the Black Armored Army, all of them were extremely respectful toward him. Please follow me, Guardian Zhao. After the Decurion returned, he looked at Zhao Jin and gestured to Zhao Jin to follow him. Thank you for the trouble. Zhao Jin nodded before following him to the Azure Cloud Mansion's main mansion. Not only that, but he was also brought into the central main hall by the Decurion. Currently, there was no one in the huge central main hall at all. Zhao Deng stood quietly without moving at all as he waited. It was not that he did not want to move, but this was the central main hall of the Azure Cloud Mansion. If any of his actions accidentally offended the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion, his trip here would only be in vain. 15 minutes went by. Half an hour went by. An hour went by. The Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion still had not arrived. However, Zhao Jin did not dare to grumble as he stood there obediently. Rumble. About 2 hours went by before the great doors to the central main hall began to move. After a while, it was tightly shut. Bang, 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 comma. At the same time, the windows in the central main hall began to close one by one as well. At this instant, the entire central main hall fell into darkness. It was so dark that one could barely see one's hands. Is this how the Azure Cloud Mansion welcomed their guests? Zhao Jin's grim voice resonated in the dark. His voice that lacked confidence seemed to tremble slightly as well. Tisk, tisk, stop thinking so highly of yourself. Do you think you're qualified to be a guest of the Azure Cloud Mansion? Another voice responded in the dark. The voice was so soft that the gender of the speaker remained unknown. Who are you? Zhao Jin's voice contained a hint of panic at this moment. Subsequently, one could suddenly see a bright flash appearing out of nowhere, gradually revealing Zhao Ji's figure. You, Wu, Ying. The soft voice resonated again, emphasizing each word. Chapter 1847. At the instant the soft voice finished speaking, before the true origin on Zhao Jin's body even fully surged out of his body, it was instantly extinguished. Before the true origin was completely extinguished from his body, one could faintly see a bright moon by his throat. As that bright moon moved away, the true origin on Zhao Jin's body was completely extinguished. The guardian of Mystical Sky Mansion is so weak, the soft voice said again before disappearing. At the same time, the great doors to the central main hall opened again and the windows in the surrounding were opened as well. The central main hall was bathed in sunlight again. As sunlight streamed into the main hall through the open door and windows, one could see a body lying on the ground. The body belonged to Guardian Zhao Jin of Mystical Sky Mansion, who was a powerhouse at the early exemplary saint stage. Currently, he was lying in a puddle of blood as his blood continuously flowed from his slashed throat. Moreover, apart from the vital wound on his throat, one could also see a small red dot between his brows. It was a drop of blood. If one used divine consciousness to probe the place between Zhao Jin's brows, one would discover a hole the size of a pin had been pierced from between his brows to the back of his head. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 black armored guards entered the main hall at lightning speed. One of them brought Zhao Jin's body away, another took the blood-soaked carpet away while the final person installed a new carpet in the central main hall. As the bloody scent dissipated, the central main hall regained its tranquility again. It was as though the incident earlier did not happen at all. This person seems to be the guardian of Mystical Sky Mansion. The black armored guard who took Zhao Jin's body away said to the black armored guard who took the blood-soaked carpet away. His name seems to be Zhao Jin. The latter nodded. It's said that the 2 guardians in the Mystical Sky Mansion are all at the exemplary saint stage. However, it only took a span of a few breaths from when the central main hall was shut until it was opened again for Zhao Jin to die. Based on the injuries on his body, Lord Yu Wuying must be the one who made a move. The former said. When the 3 words, Yu Wuying, were mentioned, his eyes widened. Rumor has it that in our Azure Cloud Mansion, other than Lord Mansion Master, even Elder Rong, Elder Ku, and Lord Commander have never seen Lord Yu Wuying before. As expected from Lord Mansion Master's shadow, Lord Yu Wuying really comes and goes like a shadow. The latter added. That day itself, the Azure Cloud Mansion released an announcement. Guardian Zhao Jin of Mystical Sky Mansion had been executed for offending the Azure Cloud Mansion. The moment this news was released, it created a huge uproar. He was the guardian of mystical Sky Mansion after all. He was someone at the early exemplary saint stage. The news soon reached the mystical Sky Mansion. The group of mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, led by Mansion Master Meng Qing of mystical Sky Mansion, gathered again. Strange enough, the last time these people gathered was due to Vice Mansion Master Zhao Deng's death. However, today, they were gathered for Guardian Zhao Jin's death. The death of the Zhao clan's father and son caused a sense of unease in the mystical Sky Mansion. I'm sure all of you have heard about it. Guardian Zhao has been executed by the Azure Cloud Mansion for offending them. Meng Qing spoke in a deep voice with a grave expression on his face. How could it not be grave? Zhao Jin was one of the two great guardians in the mystical Sky Mansion and was at the exemplary saint stage. He was one of the pillars of the mystical Sky Mansion. However, he had been killed now. This was no different than wrecking one of the pillars supporting the mystical Sky Mansion. Yes, everybody nodded. Does anyone have anything to say regarding this matter? Meng Qing added again. A Vice Mansion Master of mystical Sky Mansion said, I think Guardian Zhao had never been the reckless type. Some sort of misunderstanding must have arisen. I agree. Many people agreed with his statement. Meng Qing looked at Jiu Yun, who remained silent, and asked, Guardian Jiu, what do you think? I disagree with the others. Moreover, I think the Azure Cloud Mansion wouldn't have executed Guardian Jiu for no reason, Jiu Yun replied. I keep feeling that there's something suspicious about this matter, so I plan to personally make a trip to find out what had happened. Meng Qing said as his eyes shone brightly. Lord Mansion Master, you can't. Mansion Master, you can't. Upon hearing his words, many people present on the scene were struck with panic. What a joke. It was still acceptable that Guardian Zhao died after he went into the Azure Cloud Mansion. However, if their Mansion Master went to the Azure Cloud Mansion and followed in Guardian Zhao's footsteps, what would happen to the mystical Sky Mansion? What should they do then? A mystical Sky Mansion without Meng Qing was like a tiger with no fangs. If the mystical Sky Mansion fell, all of them who relied on Meng Qing would be affected as well. For this reason, they were willing to let this matter go without investigating it. They did not wish for Meng Qing to risk his life. Meng Qing was not only the Mansion Master of the mystical Sky Mansion, but he was also the strongest person in the mystical Sky Mansion. Don't tell me we should just let this matter go. If outsiders learn that the mystical Sky Mansion did not take any actions over this matter, what would they say about us? Meng Qing said in a deep voice. Many people fell silent immediately. Mansion Master. In the end, Jiu Yun was the first to break the silence. He said, let me go then. If I return safely after going to the Azure Cloud Mansion, it means that the Azure Cloud Mansion is not intentionally picking on the mystical Sky Mansion. If I don't return, then this means the Azure Cloud Mansion is intentionally picking a fight with our mystical Sky Mansion. Jiu Yun stood out during this critical moment. In the end, after being dissuaded by the group of mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, Meng Qing could only dismiss the idea of personally making a trip to the Azure Cloud Mansion. He could only let Guardian Jiu go. It only took Jiu Yun 10 days to go the Azure Cloud Mansion before he returned. When he returned, the group of high-ranking officials, including the mystical Sky Mansion's Mansion Master Meng Qing, gathered once again. Mansion Master, when I arrived at the Azure Cloud Mansion, I remained courteous, and so did the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion even told me that he'd personally visit our mystical Sky Mansion as a guest if he has the time. He has also said that if you decide to visit the Azure Cloud Mansion, you'll definitely be welcomed, Jiu Yun told Meng Qing in front of everybody. Meng Qing's icy expression immediately thawed a little. I've long heard that even though the Azure Cloud Mansion rose up to the top quickly, the people there are not haughty, nor do they use their power to bully others like those people from the Mountainshade Black Market. Come to think about it, it must be because of the Azure Cloud Mansion's Mansion Master's amiable personality. From what Guardian Jiu described, Mansion Master Duan doesn't seem like an unreasonable person. Although Guardian Zhao had offended the Azure Cloud Mansion, he didn't vent his anger on Guardian Jiu and the mystical Sky Mansion. In my opinion, Guardian Zhao must have been rude and offended the Azure Cloud Mansion previously. I guess it must have not been a simple offense either. The group of mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials discussed among themselves. Judging by their words, everyone was siding with the Azure Cloud Mansion, and nobody stood up for Zhao Jin at all. Guardian Jiu, did you ask about Guardian Zhao's matter? Meng Qing asked as he looked at Jiu Yun. Yes, Guc Yun nodded. I've asked Mansion Master Duan about this. According to him, Guardian Zhao entered the Crouching Dragon Lake, intending to ask the black armored guards on patrol around the Crouching Dragon Lake whether they had seen Zhao Dang. However, the black armored guards replied that they just came on shift and suggested he wait for the black armored guards on duty at that time. Then, Guardian Zhao wanted the black armored guards to help him look for the black armored guards on duty at that time. However, they told him he would have to wait until their shifts were over before they could help him. Unfortunately, Guardian Zhao refused to listen and domineeringly made his move by killing the other party since he felt they were being disrespectful. There are 10 black armored guards in the team of black armored guards. Apart from the Decurion who managed to escape, the other 9 were killed by Guardian Zhao. Due to this reason, the Azure Cloud Mansion's powerhouses attacked and killed Guardian Zhao. Guc Yun did not even blink as he lied through his teeth. Although he was lying, he did not feel guilty at all. That's too much. Guardian Zhao had really crossed the line. That's right. Would the Azure Cloud Mansion kill him if he did not act that way? Zhao Jin's actions aroused the indignation from the Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials. Although Mansion Master Meng Qing remained silent, he had a frown on his face. He felt that Zhao Jin had embarrassed the Mystical Sky Mansion. From the beginning until the end, nobody suspected Guc Yun's words at all. It would never occur to them, even in their wildest dreams, that Guc Yun had been lying during the latter part of his story. Naturally, the first half of the story was true. He had indeed gone to the Azure Cloud Mansion and was warmly welcomed by them. Even Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion personally accompanied him. However, the reason he was greeted so warmly was not due to his status as the guardian of the Mystical Sky Mansion but due to him being Ji Yuli's father. It was also due to the care he had given Duan Lingtian in the past. Just like that, Zhao Jin's death had been resolved. The Mystical Sky Mansion no longer bothered with investigating it. Due to the reason that both Zhao Jin and Zhao Dang, the 2 pillars of Zhao clan, had died one after another, the Zhao clan began to decline. In the end, the members left the clan and returned to being ordinary Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples. In Mansion Master Duan Rufeng's residence in the Azure Cloud Mansion. It was empty inside a vast yet quiet room. A tiny pagoda the size of a speck of dust was hidden in a small corner behind the bed. Nobody would notice it, and nobody would know there was another world in there. I've succeeded in transforming the second form. The sound of laughter reverberated in the 3rd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian had successfully tempered his golden crow's wings to the second form after many days of hard work. I can finally make a breakthrough in my cultivation base. After tempering the golden crow's wings to the second form, Duan Lingtian no longer needed to suppress his cultivation base. He could directly break through to the early eminent saint stage. After another 3 days and 3 nights, Duan Lingtian finally did what he could have done a long time ago. The early eminent saint stage. When Duan Lingtian sensed the transformation of the quality of the Sun True Origin in his body, he felt excited. From now on, I can use the golden crow's wings and comprehend and cultivate the elementary devouring tactic. Chapter 1848. Due to how extraordinary the Sun True Origin was, although Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base was only at the early eminent saint stage, his strength was comparable to an early divine saint stage powerhouse. Apart from that, because the Sun True Origin in his body was on par with the strength of a divine saint stage powerhouse, he could already use divine abilities even though he was only at the eminent saint stage. Golden Crow's wings. Duan Lingtian called out inwardly as a pair of huge golden wings appeared on his back. The wings were completely formed by the Sun True Origin. From afar, the wings looked like 2 dazzling suns were suspended behind him. According to Elder Huo, as long as I break through to the early eminent saint stage, my speed would be equivalent to those at the Mastery Divine Saint stage when I use the second form of the Golden Crow's wings. Let me try it out. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he immediately activated the Golden Crow's wings on his back. The Golden Crow's wings suddenly moved before it transformed into 2 streaks of golden light that soared across the sky. In the next instant, Duan Lingtian had already flown far away. He had flown all the way to the edge of the 3rd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda before he came to a halt. How fast! Earlier, Duan Lingtian did not have time to realize what was even happening when he discovered he had already appeared at the edge of the 3rd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. In fact, his speed was only equivalent to a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage. At most, it was slightly faster than it previously was. However, with the second form of the Golden Crow's wings, his speed was equivalent to a Mastery Divine Saint stage powerhouse. It was natural he did not realize what was happening earlier, since the difference of the speed from before and now was just too big. The difference was so big that he found it hard to get used to. He was similar to a newborn who had suddenly turned into an adult. Naturally, it would be hard for him to adapt in a short time. This is the speed of a Mastery Divine Saint stage powerhouse. Duan Lingtian continued to flap the Golden Crow's wings and moved around in the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. In just a blink of an eye, he had already circled around the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda a few times. When he flew around, hurricanes appeared in his wake. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian's body was hidden by the hurricanes. How fast! This is too fast. Isn't this speed a little too crazy? When Duan Lingtian experienced the speed the Golden Crow's wings granted him, he felt excited for a long time before he finally calmed himself down. Whoosh! After his figure came to a halt, he retracted the Golden Crow's wings. However, the hurricanes were still around. The hurricanes were formed when Duan Lingtian was flapping his wings earlier. Now that he was no longer flying, with no energy to fuel it, it gradually disappeared as well. Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged in the air as a lot of information appeared in his mind. The information was about the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes were closed. It seemed as though he was attaining mental composure, but the truth was he was comprehending the elementary devouring tactic. It seemed as though he had turned in a statue that was sitting cross-legged as he immersed his heart and mind into comprehending it. There were no movements and noises from him at all. Time continued to pass by quietly. A day went by. 2 days went by. 3 days went by. About 5 months had passed when Duan Lingtian, who had been sitting motionlessly, finally showed signs of moving. If there was someone next to Duan Lingtian, if they studied him closely, they would discover the heaven and earth spirit energy in within 1 meter radius of him was rushing at him at a monstrous speed, surging into his body. At this moment, all the heaven and earth spirit energy in within a meter radius had been completely devoured by him. For a short time, there was no heaven and earth spirit energy at all in within 1 meter radius around him. It was only until the heaven and earth spirit energy from outside entered that the surrounding returned to its original state. What a great feeling! Is this the elementary devouring tactic? At the same time, Duan Lingtian opened his eyes that had been closed for 5 months. Excitement filled his face as his eyes shone brightly. In just 5 months, my elementary devouring tactic could be considered to be at the rudiment stage. The elementary devouring tactic suits me quite well. Duan Lingtian praised himself when he reached the end of his sentence. It took him 5 months to comprehend the elementary devouring tactic. Many people would be surprised to learn he had comprehended a high-grade divine ability in just 5 months. Moreover, the elementary devouring tactic Duan Lingtian comprehended was not an ordinary high-grade divine ability. If news of this spread out, Duan Lingtian's name would definitely become a household name again. 5 months in the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda meant that only a month had passed in the outside world. Coupled with the time I spent to cultivate the Golden Crow's wings, there are 8 months left in the outside world before I have to fulfill the 5-year pact. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt the same pressure from before bearing down on him. Although he had comprehended the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, he could only absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in within 1 meter radius. This would not be too helpful to him. The main point of the elementary devouring tactic was to absorb the energy in the vast surrounding, allowing his strength to rise to the highest stage possible in the shortest time. The amount of energy he absorbed was directly linked to how much his strength would rise. For example, the old man he encountered in the final test for the divine ability relic where he obtained the elementary devouring tactic. He could absorb the energy from the vast surrounding until it reached the limit where his body could handle. With the cultivation base at the early refined saint stage, the old man was able to mobilize the strength of a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage for a short time using the elementary devouring tactic. This was the true power of the elementary devouring tactic. Currently, Duan Lingtian was still far from reaching that stage. Using the elementary devouring tactic to absorb the energy in my surroundings would burden my body. However, my body's stronger than a 6-clawed divine dragon at the same stage. Coupled with the 99 saint veins in my body, the burden I'll be able to bear will definitely be more than what the old man could bear if our cultivation bases are at the same stage. Currently, Duan Lingtian was very familiar with the basics of the elementary devouring tactic. All he needed to do was further comprehend and cultivate it. If that old man's body was similar to mine when he used the elementary devouring tactic with a cultivation base at the early refined saint stage at that time, he would have been able to absorb more energy. With a body like mine, his strength would have been at the eminent saint stage when he used the elementary devouring tactic with a cultivation base at the early refined saint stage. Duan Lingtian, who had already understood the elementary devouring tactic, did not doubt this at all. Since his inherent talent was better than others, it was only natural that when he used the elementary devouring tactic that he would be able to use it better compared to others. Not everyone had a monstrously strong body like him. I must leave a few days earlier before 8 months' time is up. In other words, I'll be able to stay in the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for another 3 years. Would he be able to break through to the intermediate eminent saint stage in 3 years? Duan Lingtian had no idea. However, he knew he had to do everything he could. Although he had comprehended the elementary devouring tactic, it was only at the rudiment stage. He still had a long way for it to be useful during battles. No matter how difficult it would be during these 3 years, he would not slacken work as hard as he possibly could. Apart from that, he had not forgotten the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. If he could successfully comprehend the profundity of the third stage in the coming 3 years, his strength would also increase. If there's more time, I'll try comprehending the divine ability, the otherworldly celestial as well. The otherworldly celestial is a high-grade sword-type divine ability. If I pair it with the Sovereign Heart Sword, I'll definitely get stronger since they're both sword techniques, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. For this reason, he was very busy during these 3 years. He did not even leave the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. 3 years inside the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda were equivalent to 7 months in the outside world. Although 3 years had gone by, in other people's views, Duan Lingtian had only been in closed-door cultivation for less than a year. It was because of the short time outside that many people who cared about Duan Lingtian felt anxious on his behalf. Duan Rufeng was still fine. After all, it was the old prophet who had asked him to make the 5-year pact. With his trust in the old prophet and the confidence his son had shown, he chose to believe his son would be able to defeat Diju. Naturally, he was still slightly worried. Ji Yuli, who was fighting his way up in the Azure Cloud platforms, could not help but think of Duan Lingtian and break out in cold sweat on his behalf when he had free time. He did not think Duan Lingtian would be able to defeat Diju 8 months later. Due to his worries and intention to help Duan Lingtian, coupled with the fact that he felt he was too weak, his cultivation base made a huge leap of progress due to the stress. Even he did not think this would happen. Pressure could also motivate a person. This sentence described Ji Yuli perfectly during this time. Apart from Ji Yuli, there were also other people who were worried about Duan Lingtian. For instance, Li Ru and Li Fei. Although Duan Rufeng and Duan Lingtian did not mention this matter to them, news of the 5-year pact Duan Rufeng made was spread out by the dragon as time drew closer. Naturally, news of it did not spread very far. However, as the wife of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, Li Ru had naturally received news of it. Tian'er is going to fight with Diju, the 5-clawed golden dragon from the Dragon Clan, in 8 months for a chance to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool. 5-year pact. Brother Fang's the one who personally made the pact with the Dragon Clan. Li Ru and Li Fei immediately went and searched for Duan Rufeng when she learned about Diju's strength. Brother Feng, why would you make the 5-year pact on Tian'er's behalf? Diju was already at the peak of the Divine Saint stage at that time. He must have already broken through to the Exemplary Saint stage. Asking Tian'er to compete for a chance to enter the Dragon Cleansing Pool is akin to asking him to die. Li Ru asked upon seeing Duan Rufeng. Her eyes contained hints of anger, and she had a panicked expression on her face. Chapter 1849. Although Li Fei remained silent, she was staring intently at Duan Rufeng. It was obvious she wanted to know what Duan Rufeng's answer to Li Ru's question would be. She had witnessed Diju's strength previously. At that time, Diju had single-handedly destroyed Lingtian sect. Many people had died because of him on Half Moon Island. Up until now, fear still lingered in her heart when she recalled that incident. Ruer, it's Senior Prophet who arranged the 5 years pact. So you don't have to worry too much about this. Nothing's going to happen to Tian'er, Duan Rufeng told Li Ru. Moreover, when the time comes, I'll be by Tian'er's side. I promise you if Tian'er is in danger, I'll save him immediately. Duan Rufeng had long prepared for this, so he was quite adept at dealing with Li Ru. Senior prophet. Upon hearing his words, Li Ru's heart jolted. Naturally, she knew the old prophet whom her husband just mentioned. He was famous in both the upper and lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Li Ru began to slightly relax when she thought about the old prophet and her husband's promise. You're certain nothing's going to happen to him? Naturally, she was still worried even though she had relaxed a little. Don't worry. Duan Rufeng nodded. At the same time, he looked at Li Fei. Fei'er, don't worry. Tian'er is my son. I won't let anyone hurt him. The chance to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool, is very important to Tian'er. He wants to fight for it as well. Li Fei had stayed in the Azure Cloud Mansion for a long time now and had learned about the old prophet from Li Ru. When Duan Rufeng mentioned the old prophet, her heart felt slightly more at ease, just like Li Ru. She nodded her head when she heard Duan Rufeng's words. She would support her man unconditionally since it was his decision. It would be fine if he was unharmed. However, if something happened to him, she would not continue to live on her own. She would live or die together with him. This was Li Fei's love for Duan Lingtian. Like a moth that could not help but be attracted to the fire, she would charge into a fire for him. Although it seemed like a small act, it was an act that needed courage. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of what was going on. Currently, he was working hard in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. At the Mountainshade Black Market's headquarters, leader Dugu had also received the news about the 5-year pact between Duan Rufeng and the Dragon Clan. Apart from that, he also learned it would take place in a few months' time. Didn't Duan Rufeng's son disappear? Will he even show up for this 5-year pact? Dugu felt skeptical about this matter. At that time, when news about Duan Lingtian, Duan Rufeng's son, possessing the Devilseal tablet spread out, he had ordered his subordinates to look for Duan Lingtian with all their might. Although he managed to gather some clues, in the end, Duan Lingtian still managed to escape. Since that time, the Mountainshade Black Market had never stopped looking for Duan Lingtian, but it was all in vain even after so many years. Moreover, Dugu had sent out many capable subordinates to be stationed around the vicinity of the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate. Their mission was to stop Duan Lingtian from returning to the Azure Cloud Mansion. Unfortunately, several years had passed, but Duan Lingtian still had not returned to the Azure Cloud Mansion. It was as though he had disappeared into thin air. At the very least, in the eyes of the powerhouses from the Mountainshade Black Market, Duan Lingtian had yet to the Azure Cloud Mansion. They were unaware that Duan Lingtian did not only return to the Azure Cloud Mansion, but he was even trying with all his might to get stronger in preparation to go to the Dragon Clan's lair and fulfill the 5-year pact in a few months' time. Let alone the subordinates from the Mountainshade Black Market, it did not even occur to leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market that Duan Lingtian knew a secret disguising tactic that was undetectable by divine consciousness. It was all thanks to this disguising tactic that Duan Lingtian was able to return to the Azure Cloud Mansion safely undetected by the Mountainshade Black Market's powerhouses. Otherwise, he would have been captured and brought to the Mountainshade Black Market long ago if they did not kill him. Deputy Leader Feng Buyuyi of Mountainshade Black Market, who was standing below on Dugu's right, said, "Lord Leader, why don't we make a trip there and find out if Duan Lingtian would appear?" His words were respectful. He did not dare to look down on his leader who was much younger than him. Even if he wanted to look down on him, he did not possess such capability. Although his leader was a lot younger in comparison, his strength could not compare to him at all. In his opinion, currently, in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, among those of the same age, only that mansion master from the Azure Cloud Mansion was a match for their Mountainshade Black Market's leader. As for the other rising buds, only Lingtian from the Mystical Sky Mansion could be mentioned in the same breath with their leader. You're right, we should make a trip to the Dragon Clan's lair and take a look. Dugu nodded. He narrowed his eyes as he muttered to himself in his deep voice, "Duan Rufeng, I hope your son will show up. I really want to see if someone as monstrously strong as you have a son who would surprise me." According to Diju from the Dragon Clan, your son hadn't even entered the pristine saint stage 4 years ago. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the leader of the Mountainshade Black Market was a monstrous genius who would only appear once in 100 years in the lower province. Dugu had always been alone and felt lonely in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was only when the Azure Cloud Mansion rose up and Duan Rufeng appeared that his life began to have colors again. Although Duan Rufeng was his rival, he and Duan Rufeng respected each other as well. At the very least, this was the case on his part. Due to this reason, when he found out Duan Rufeng's son was actually Duan Lingtian, who was widely known in the lower province to possess the Devilseal tablet, he did not spread this news. Although he knew Duan Rufeng and the Azure Cloud Mansion would be hit by calamities if news of it spread out, he did not do so. The Devilseal tablet was more than enough to attract the attention of powerhouses from the upper and lower province. Dugu preferred to rely on his own strength and the Mountainshade Black Market's strength to defeat Duan Rufeng or the Azure Cloud Mansion. He felt it was beneath him to use such a method to deal with Duan Rufeng. Dugu in the south, Rufeng in the north, dominating the entire lower province. Duan Rufeng, you and I will have to fight eventually to see who's the superior one. I hope that day will come soon, but at the same time, I don't wish for it to come. Won't I be lonely again if I defeat you and destroy the Azure Cloud Mansion? Dugu thought to himself, Duan Rufeng, I hope you'll put up a good fight and don't let me surpass you too quickly. At the very least, don't let me surpass you before I leave the lower province for the upper province. I won't be able to get used to your absence. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At the old address of the Seven Absolute Sect. A cold gust of wind blew past as an old man hovered in the air with his hands clasped behind him. He looked at the ruins below his feet and muttered to himself, at that time, who would have thought the Seven Absolute Sect that dominated for such a long time would fall to such a state? If Duan Rufeng was here, he would be able to recognize with just a glance that the old man was none other than the secretive and mysterious old prophet. The Seven Absolute Sect was separated into seven absolutes. The old prophet was the present successor of the second absolute, the prophet progeny. He was currently the acting sect leader for the Seven Absolute Sect. He was also someone the three great sects in the upper province wished to kill even in their dreams. Due to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, the Seven Absolute Sect had once taken the entire Dao Martial Saint Land by storm for an era. During that era, the Dao Martial Saint Land had yet to be split into two. There were no upper province nor lower province. If somebody asked just how powerful the Seven Absolute Sect was at that time, the answer would be the Seven Absolute Sect was so powerful that even the three great forces were forced to join forces for the first time ever. Even then, they were only able to withstand and survive the attack of the Seven Absolute Sect. Otherwise, the three great sects would not have existed in the Dao Martial Saint Land now. During that era, if somebody asked which sect was at the top, everyone would shout that it was the Seven Absolute Sect. During that era, if somebody asked who the strongest person was, everyone would point to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. During that era, the Seven Absolute Sect was synonymous to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's name. Sword Saint Feng Qingyang did not need the Seven Absolute Sect at all. With just one sword, he traveled the Dao Martial Saint Land alone and was known for being invincible. During that era, the three great sects on the Dao Martial Saint Land in the past had to huddle together just to survive. That era belonged to Sword Saint Feng Qingyang and the Seven Absolute Sect. It was only until Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had transcended and entered the Devata realm that the era finally came to an end. Bloodshed was destined to follow when an era ended. The three great sects that had always suppressed in the past, huddling together and enduring hardship in order to survive, retaliated in full fury the moment they had a chance to do so. Although the Seven Absolute Sect that was caught unprepared was filled with talented people, it was still difficult for it to endure the full fury of the three great sects. After it had held its position for 3 months, it was finally annihilated. Fortunately, despite the Seven Absolute Sect's annihilation, the legacy did not die at all. Instead of finding a disciple to teach, the legacy of the Seven Absolute Sect placed importance on fate. Each of the Absolutes, members had the habit of leaving behind their legacies in different parts of the Dao Martial Saint Land, waiting for the one who was fated to encounter it. Due to this reason, the foundation of the Seven Absolute Sect was not annihilated. Naturally, the three great sects panicked when they learned about this. They mobilized all their forces to search every part of the Dao Martial Saint Land for the legacies left behind by the Seven Absolute Sect's members. They were worried that someone like Sword Saint Feng Qingyang would appear in the Seven Absolute Sect again in the future. For this reason, they had to do everything that they could to destroy the foundation of the Seven Absolute Sect. The Seven Absolute Sect was their mortal enemy. It was only until the Dao Martial Saint Land was split in two, the three great sects moved to the upper province. Only then did they stop searching for the legacies left behind by members from the Seven Absolute Sect in the lower province. However, whenever they encountered anyone whom they suspected to be a member of the Seven Absolutes sect in the Upper Province, they would kill without mercy. Take the old prophet, the current successor for the Seven Absolutes sect's second absolute, the prophet progeny, for example. He was someone who was blacklisted by the three great sects in the Upper Province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Whenever there was news of his sightings, the three great sects would immediately send powerhouses out to try and kill him. The Dragon Cleansing Pool will be where the dragonization of the successor of our Seven Absolutes sect's first absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, takes place. Once the Fog Rain's successor goes through the dragonization, he would be unstoppable. How I look forward to it. The old prophet vanished into thin air, only the echoes of his words were left behind. Chapter 1850. Time continued to pass by. Soon after, there were only a few days left before the day of the 5-year pact arrived. A few seemingly travel-weary figures made their journey to Dragon Clan's lair. It was 3 young men and an old man. They were none other than the group of people from the Azure Cloud Mansion led by Mansion Master Duan Rufeng. Apart from Duan Rufeng, Ku Mi, the revered guardian of Azure Cloud Mansion, was also there, along with Duan Lingtian and Ji Yuli. When Ji Yuli saw the Dragon Clan's lair was just right in front of them, he looked at Duan Lingtian and asked solemnly, "Junior brother Lingtian, you really feel confident? The battle between you and that 5-clawed golden dragon isn't a joke. You might lose your life over a small mistake." "Senior brother Ji Yuli," Duan Lingtian said with a helpless expression on his face, "you seem to have asked me the same question more than 10 times throughout our journey, right? Don't worry, no matter what, I already have a solution. Even if I can't win him, I'm confident I can retreat in time to save my life. With my father here, don't tell me you're still worried something will happen to me." Ji Yuli turned around and glanced at Duan Rufeng. He only felt at ease after Duan Rufeng nodded at him. A few days ago, Duan Lingtian had left the 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda and came out of closed-door cultivation. After he came out, he accompanied his mother, his fiancé, and son for a few days before following his father to the Dragon Clan's lair. They only had one purpose coming to the Dragon Clan's lair. It was to fulfill the 5-year pact. The 5-year pact was a gamble Duan Rufeng made with Di Shan, the clan leader of the Dragon Clan, 5 years ago. Now that 5 years had gone by, his son, Duan Lingtian, would fight Di Ju, the Dragon Clan's 5-clawed golden dragon. Whoever won would be given the chance to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool. 5 years ago, Duan Rufeng had taken one of the keys to the Dragon Cleansing Pool from Di Shan, so he was not worried the Dragon Clan would go back on their words and open the Dragon Cleansing Pool before their arrival. The Dragon Cleansing Pool could only be opened when the 2 keys were together. Soon after, under Duan Rufeng's guidance, the group of people arrived at the forest where the Dragon Clan's lair was located. They charged into it without decreasing their speed. Swoosh, 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 comma. At the same time, a few figures shot out of the Dragon Clan's lair. They were the Dragon Clan's members who were in charge of patrolling the area. "I'm Duan Rufeng from the Azure Cloud Mansion. I brought my son here to fulfill the 5-year pact." Before the few Dragon Clan's members could speak, Duan Rufeng's voice sounded thunderously through the Dragon Clan's lair. It took the few Dragon Clan's members by surprise as a look of horror and panic appeared in their eyes. Duan Rufeng, was this not the name of the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion? "Please follow us, Mansion Master Duan." The few members from the Dragon Clan took a deep breath and welcomed them respectfully when they heard these group of people led by Duan Rufeng was from the Azure Cloud Mansion, and they had come to fulfill the 5-year pact. The Mansion Master of the Azure Cloud Mansion had some disputes with their Dragon Clan's high-ranking officials 5 years ago, and their Dragon Clan's high-ranking officials had compromised with him and gave his son a chance to compete for the chance to enter the Dragon Cleansing Pool. Faced with Duan Rufeng, even the Dragon Clan's high-ranking officials had to obediently compromise with him, let alone people like them. If they angered Duan Rufeng, the Dragon Clan might not even stand up for them if he killed them. They did not doubt this at all. Dragon Clan. Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow and glanced at the few Dragon Clan's members as he quietly activated his Divine Eye. The Divine Eye was a secret tactic that Elder Huo had taught him. Not only was it able to probe someone's cultivation base, but it could also find out the true nature of a beast that had taken human form. In other words, it had some of the same functions as Sun Wukong's fiery golden eyes. However, all in all, they were still far from being comparable to Sun Wukong's fiery golden eyes. After activating his Divine Eye, very faint images began to appear on the members of the dragon clan. Three-clawed divine dragon. Duan Lingtian clearly saw their true forms. They were all three-clawed divine dragons that had a slightly lower position in the dragon clan. Under the guidance of the dragon clan's members, when Duan Lingtian and the group of people entered the dragon clan's lair, a voice resonated from afar. "Good day, Mansion Master Duan, Elder Ku." The voice was accompanied by an old man who was dressed in green. Elder Qing Yan. The few members from the dragon clan who were leading the way bowed respectfully when the green-clad old man appeared. At the same time, they moved to stand behind him. "Young Mansion Master, he's a five-clawed green dragon who was at the peak of the Divine Saint stage 5 years ago. His strength was similar to Diju at that time. However, now that 5 years have passed, he's probably no longer a match for Diju." An ancient voice sounded in Duan Lingtian's ear in a timely manner. The person who transmitted his voice to him was none other than Elder Ku Mi. When he was in the Azure Cloud Mansion, Duan Lingtian met Ku Mi and learned who he was through Duan Rufeng. Now that he thought about it, it was not his first time meeting Elder Ku in the Azure Cloud Mansion. Previously, when he was still in the Mystical Sky Mansion, he had seen Elder Ku when he first came out of the Saint Martial secret zone. After that, he finally learned the reason Elder Ku went to the Mystical Sky Mansion was to verify his identity. Unfortunately, due to the disguising tactic that could not be seen through with divine consciousness, Elder Ku was also deceived by him. Although Elder Ku seemed to perpetually have a long face and was taciturn, he was always smiling in front of his young mansion master. It had to be said that his smile looked uglier than if he had cried. "Five-clawed green dragon, Qing Yan." Duan Lingtian nodded. He did not expect to instantly encounter a five-clawed green dragon as soon as he entered the dragon clan's lair. Due to his curiosity, he activated his divine eye to try and see Qing Yan's true form. Humph. However, before his divine consciousness could even get near Qing Yan, he had already been discovered. As Qing Yan snorted coldly, a vast divine consciousness swept out and shattered Duan Lingtian's extended divine consciousness. Barf. Horror dawned on Duan Lingtian's face immediately. He became dizzy after he suffered from having his extended divine consciousness shattered. He could not help but throw up a mouthful of blood as his face turned pale. Swish, 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 comma. At this moment, Duan Rufeng, Ku Mi, and Ji Yuli's expressions turned grave in unison. Bang! Without seeing any movements from Ku Mi, a loud noise sounded as he disappeared from his spot. The five-clawed green dragon, Elder Qing Yan, who was originally standing, was sent flying in the next instant like an arrow that was shot out. Barf! Barf! Qing Yan, who was sent flying, threw up mouthfuls of blood in the sky. It made it seem as though dark red roses were blooming in the sky. In just a blink of an eye, Ku Mi had already reappeared next to Duan Rufeng. It seemed as though he had teleported from one place to another. He spoke in an icy voice that sent shivers up the spines of people who heard it. "It's an honor being probed by our young mansion master. If you act so foolishly again, you'll definitely die." The few Dragon Clan's members who stood not far away were so shocked that they began to tremble. Let alone them, even their Dragon Clan's five-clawed green dragon elder was easily sent flying. At this moment, they fervently prayed that the other party would not vent their anger on them. "Ah, so it's your young mansion master. I didn't know your identity earlier, so I had acted a little rudely. Please forgive me, young mansion master." When Qing Yan returned with his injured body, not only was he not angry, but he even looked at Duan Lingtian and apologized. His words were filled with sincerity. Upon seeing this, the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth could not help but twitch for a moment. In the end, he finally nodded when faced with Qing Yan's anticipatory gaze. When Duan Lingtian saw Qing Yan sighed in relief as though a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders, a sense of guilt rose in his heart. The conflict earlier had been caused by him probing Qing Yan with his divine eye, so he could be considered as the one at fault. He was still at fault even if someone shattered his divine consciousness, since he had probed him without permission. Although he felt he was at fault, Ku Mi had already made his move. Not only did he injure Qing Yan, but he even made Qing Yan obediently apologize to him. What kind of logic was this? Junior brother Lingtian, haven't you gotten used to it by now after we've come so far? This is a world where the strong ones are revered. It's because Uncle Duan and Elder Ku are here today. If they aren't here, and it's just the both of us, even if you didn't die, you'd be skinned alive. Ji Yuli transmitted his voice to Duan Lingtian as though he could read his mind. Look at this dragon clan's elder properly. He's suppressing the killing intent in the depths of his eyes. Ji Yuli continued to transmit his voice through voice transmission. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian looked at Qing Yan again. True enough, upon closer inspection, he saw hints of humiliation and wrath in the depths of his eyes. Not only that, but there was a hint of killing intent as well. It's said that five-clawed divine dragons are all proud beings. I've learned something new today. This five-clawed divine dragon's tolerance must be extremely high to endure such humiliation, Duan Lingtian replied through voice transmission. Five-clawed divine dragon. When Ji Yuli heard his voice transmission, his tone was filled with confusion as he replied through voice transmission again, Jade Junior Brother Lingtian, you said this dragon clan's elder is a five-clawed divine dragon. Yes, Duan Lingtian replied through voice transmission, Elder Ku told me earlier. His name seems to be Qing Yan, and he's a five-clawed green draw. Five-clawed green dragon. Ji Yuli interrupted him before Duan Lingtian could finish speaking. Shock could be heard in his voice. I've heard of him before. He seems to be at the peak of the divine saint stage. Due to the reason his true form is a five-clawed green dragon, his strength is top tier 2 among powerhouses at the peak of the divine saint stage in the entire lower province. Even Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of Heaven Palace in the mystical Sky Mansion, is far from being comparable to the dragon clan's five-clawed green dragon, Elder Qing Yan, despite being known as the strongest person below the exemplary saint stage in the mystical Sky Mansion. When Ji Yuli reached this part of the sentence, he sighed emotionally. Today, I've finally witnessed how amazing the Azure Cloud Mansion is. This five-clawed green dragon, Elder Qing Yan, doesn't even dare to fart in front of Uncle Duan and Elder Ku even though he had suffered such great humiliation and injustice. Not only that, but he even took the initiative to apologize to you. Chapter 1851. Upon hearing Ji Yuli's words, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, but he no longer said anything. It was exactly like what Ji Yuli had said. If it was not for the fact that his father and Elder Ku were here, this dragon clan's five-clawed divine dragon elder would have long sliced him into pieces. Naturally, he knew it was rude of him to randomly probe someone with his divine eye. Due to how extraordinary my son True Origin is, my current strength is at the divine saint stage. However, the Sun True Origin doesn't influence the spiritual energy and the divine consciousness. My divine consciousness is still at the eminent saint stage. I can only probe eminent saint stage powerhouses and check their backgrounds using my divine eye without them noticing. As for those at the divine saint stage and above, I won't be able to probe them without them discovering what I'm doing. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. No matter what, this little episode had also come to an end after the dragon clan's five-clawed divine dragon elder Qing Yan apologized. Qing Yan took a deep breath as he forced a smile on his face and said to Duan Lingtian and the others, Mansion Master Duan, young Mansion Master Duan, Elder Ku, and this little brother, this way please. At the same time, he gestured for them to continue moving forward. Under Qing Yan's guidance, Duan Lingtian and the other three arrived at a little valley in the dragon clan's lair. The little valley had an idyllic scene. It was like a beautiful landscape painting. Not only that, but there were 10 little wooden houses erected there as well. Although they were not big, they were exquisitely built. Mansion Master Duan, the 5-year pact is set to happen in 3 days. During the coming 3 days, you can rest here, Qing Yan told Duan Rufeng with a smile before he left. All right, Duan Rufeng nodded his head indifferently and ignored him. As soon as Qing Yan turned around to leave, his originally smiling face was instantly replaced with a gloomy expression. The Azure Cloud Mansion is really arrogant. If it's not for the fact that clan leader did not enter the dragon cleansing pool previously, would the Azure Cloud Mansion dare to act so boldly in our dragon clan's lair? His heart was filled with anger as he left. However, suddenly, as though he had thought of something, he narrowed his eyes. Earlier, when the young Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion used his divine consciousness to probe me, his divine consciousness doesn't seem to be at the divine saint stage or above. It seems to be only at the eminent saint stage. In other words, he's only an eminent saint stage martial cultivator. The moment Qing Yan thought of this, he sneered immediately. He wants to compete with Diju for a chance to enter our dragon clan's saint land, the dragon cleansing pool with that weak power. What nonsense. He was very clear about Diju's strength. 5 years ago, he was already at the peak of the divine saint stage and was on par with him. Now that 5 years had passed, with Diju's innate talent, he must have already broken through to the exemplary saint stage. Even if he did not break through, Diju was still a lot stronger than him. The young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion couldn't even handle my divine consciousness, but he still dares to come to the Dragon Clan to fight Diju. He's seeking death. The moment he thought of this, his eyes shone coldly. As though he was reminded by something, Qing Yan frowned. Somehow the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion seems a little familiar. A few moments later, his gaze lit up immediately. I remember now, he's Duan Lingtian who possessed the Devil Seal tablet, right? They look identical. Not only that, according to Diju, the name of mansion master Duan Rufeng's son is Duan Lingtian as well. They must be the same person. Qing Yan's eyes shone even brighter like the sun. After dealing with the group of people from Azure Cloud Mansion, he immediately went to look for the person involved in the 5-year pact that would take place 3 days later. That person was none other than Diju, the 5-clawed golden dragon. Unfortunately, when he arrived at Diju's residence that also served as his cultivation place, he discovered Diju was still in closed-door cultivation. There are only 3 days left, but he still hasn't come out of closed-door cultivation. The time has already been set. Not only that, but the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion had also been informed about this. Will he show up in time? Wait a minute, according to clan leader, he had set the time after discussing it with Diju. Qing Yan muttered to himself as a frown appeared on his face. What the hell is Diju doing? Elder Qing Yan. Qing Yan was about to leave as he muttered to himself under his breath when a voice sounded from behind him, causing him to stop walking. The moment he turned around, a sturdy middle-aged man appeared before his eyes. The middle-aged man had an awe-inspiring look. As he stood there, his body subtly emitted a kind of pressure. When Qing Yan sensed the intense pressure faintly exuding out of the middle-aged man's body, his eyes lit up as he asked in delight and surprise, Diju, why you've made a breakthrough? Elder Qing Yan, it seems like you've not broken through yet. Diju asked in response as he smiled indifferently. I can't be compared to you. You're a 5-clawed golden dragon who has the imperial family's blood coursing through your veins. It's only natural your innate talent is higher than mine. I'll need 30 to 50 years before I'll be able to make a breakthrough, Qing Yan replied with a sigh. Elder Qing Yan, did you come here to look for me? He had just come out of closed-door cultivation, but he had instantly met Qing Yan by the entrance of his cultivation place. Therefore, he assumed Elder Qing Yan was here to look for him. Yes. Qing Yan nodded. He smiled. Diju, you don't have to be worried at all over the 5-year pact. 5 years ago, when I saw how Duan Rufeng took the initiative to suggest the 5-year pact, I thought his son must be very strong. However, in hindsight, he was just looking for a way out for himself. What do you mean? Upon hearing Qing Yan's words, Diju was baffled. He knew Elder Qing Yan must have discovered something for him to say such words. Diju, Duan Rufeng brought his son here today, Qing Yan said. Before he could finish his words, he saw Diju's expression turned grave as a terrifying killing intent glinted in his eyes. Duan, Ling, Tian, Diju hissed out these 3 words as he gritted his teeth. He would never forget how he was fooled in the bottom of the sea by that ant who had not even entered the saint stage. He had sworn to kill him if there was a chance. The chance had finally come now. The 5-year pact was the place for him and that person to fight, and he would kill him in the arena. After a long while, Diju took a deep breath and suppressed his anger before he said to Qing Yan, Elder Qing Yan, I lost my composure for a moment, please continue. Qing Yan nodded. Duan Rufeng brought his son here today. After I settled them in the place we've prepared, I instantly came to find you. Put aside the fact that you've broken through to the exemplary saint stage, even if you didn't break through, you'll definitely win. Although I've not fought Duan Lingtian before, I managed to confirm his cultivation base through his divine consciousness. His cultivation base is only at the eminent saint stage. Qing Yan said. What, eminent saint stage? Upon hearing Qing Yan's words, Diju did not seem delighted as Qing Yan had expected. Instead, he had an astonished expression on his face. He has already broken through to the eminent saint stage in these 5 years. How does he cultivate? It was only natural that Diju was shocked. When he first met Duan Lingtian for the first time, he was merely at the saint rudiment stage and had not even entered the pristine saint stage yet. However, he learned from Qing Yan today that Duan Lingtian had broken through to the eminent saint stage. How could he not be shocked? After a long while, Diju regained his senses. His eyes gleamed with terrifying killing intent as he slowly said in a sharp tone, however, it doesn't matter how high his innate talent is, he's only at the eminent saint stage. I'll definitely kill him in 3 days' time. Diju, I know you really want to kill Duan Lingtian, but don't you forget his father is Duan Rufeng, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Duan Rufeng doesn't usually look for trouble with our dragon clan due to the support we have from the dragon clan in the upper province. However, if his son dies, I'm sure he'll go crazy over it. At that time, it's not impossible for him to use the might of the Azure Cloud Mansion against our dragon clan. Faced with an Azure Cloud Mansion that fears nothing, I'm afraid our dragon clan in the lower province would be annihilated. Although he was also eager to kill Duan Rufeng and his son, he knew the 5-year pact was not a good time to kill Duan Lingtian. But I want to kill him. Diju knew Qingyan's words made sense, but he could not help but feel unwilling. Don't worry, it's just temporary. We can't kill Duan Lingtian in front of Duan Rufeng. However, don't tell me Duan Lingtian is going to stay by Duan Rufeng's side forever to be protected. Qingyan asked nonchalantly as his eyes gleamed. Diju nodded his head upon hearing his words. He knew he had to wait for a good opportunity to kill Duan Lingtian. Oh, did you hear about the re-emergence of the Devilseal tablet? Qingyan suddenly asked Diju as though he just remembered something. The Devilseal tablet, one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapon ranking. The bane of devil cultivators. Diju was astonished. I've been in closed-door cultivation these 5 years, so I've not heard anything about the Devilseal tablet. Judging by your words, don't tell me the Devilseal tablet has appeared. Not only has it appeared, but it's even in the possession of someone you know. Qingyan smiled wryly. Who? Diju was baffled. Don't tell me some elder from our dragon clan has obtained it. Or did clan leader obtain it? It's not anyone from our dragon clan. It's Duan Lingtian. The Devilseal tablet is with him. When Qingyan mentioned Duan Lingtian, a murderous gleam appeared in his eyes again. He would never forget the humiliation he had suffered today. If it was possible, he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian before Diju could. Duan Lingtian. Diju's eyes narrowed and shone with greed. The Devilseal tablet is with him. Chapter 1852. The Devilseal tablet was one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapon ranking that even the upper province powerhouses would covet, let alone someone like Diju. However, Diju also knew if he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian, he could not do it during the 5-year pact battle, just as Elder Qingyan had said. It was not a joke if Mansion Master Duan Rufeng was enraged. At that time, let alone him or the entire dragon clan, even the clan leader might not be able to endure Duan Rufeng's rage. Dugu in the north, Rufeng in the south, dominating the entire lower province. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, not taking the watchers sent by the upper province's first-rate forces, the strongest people were none other than leader Dugu of Mountain Shade Black Market and Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion. It was due to these two people that the Mountain Shade Black Market and Azure Cloud Mansion had an extraordinary status today. If Duan Rufeng led the Azure Cloud Mansion to kill the Dragon Clan at all cost, the Dragon Clan would definitely be annihilated. Duan Lingtian. Diju's eyes flashed brightly. I'll find a chance to kill you and snatch the Devilseal tablet from you. If I can get my hands on the Devilseal tablet, even a devil cultivator who's a stage higher than me wouldn't be a match for me. This includes the Mountain Shade Black Market's leader Dugu and Azure Cloud Mansion's Mansion Master Duan Rufeng. Both leader Dugu of Mountain Shade Black Market and Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion were devil cultivators. If Diju managed to obtain the Devilseal tablet, he could even kill a quintessential saint stage devil cultivator, let alone Dugu and Duan Rufeng, who were at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. Qingyan stood by the side. Although he also coveted the Devilseal tablet, he knew very well he did not have the capability to keep it in his possession. Due to this reason, he decided not to think about it and dismissed his thoughts. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian, who was staying in one of the wooden houses in the little valley, was still unaware that Diju had already come out of closed-door cultivation. Not only that, but he had also set his sights on the Devilseal tablet. Naturally, he would not care even if he knew about it. He knew his identity would be revealed the moment he decided to fulfill the 5-year pact as Duan Lingtian, son of Mansion Master Duan Rufeng from the Azure Cloud Mansion. At some point, everyone would find out that Duan Lingtian, who possessed the Devilseal tablet, was actually the son of Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion. After the 5-year pact is over, and I come out from the dragon cleansing pool, I'll head to the upper province. I can no longer stay in the lower province. This was also a way for Duan Lingtian to solve the problem. He would leave the dragon cleansing pool and return to the Azure Cloud Mansion and immediately bid farewell to his mother and his fiancé before heading to the upper province to search for his other fiancé, Ka. This was because he knew that he would only bring calamity to the Azure Cloud Mansion if he continued to stay there. This was not something he was willing to see. Due to this reason, he decided to leave as soon as he could. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden bed in the wooden house, Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed coldly as he muttered to himself, I'll be able to see Diju in 3 days' time. Diju, you annihilated my Lingtian sect and killed my Lingtian sect's vice-sect leaders, elders, and disciples. It's time for me to avenge them. This debt of blood will be repaid with blood. Then, he began to shut his eyes to attain mental composure. He did not enter the 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda. He only stayed in the wooden house to wait for the day the 5-year pact would arrive. After the group of people from the Azure Cloud Mansion settled in, 3 more travel-weary figures appeared outside the Dragon Clan's lair. The person in the lead was dressed in a black robe as his long hair fluttered even though there was no wind like poisonous snakes. It was as though they would attack at any given time. 2 old men followed behind him. Who are you? How dare you trespass into our Dragon Clan's lair? A few figures flew out from the Dragon Clan's lair and stopped the 3 travel-weary figures. I'm Dugu from the Mountainshade Black Market. The black-clad young man merely looked at the few Dragon Clan's members who blocked their path indifferently, but it was enough to send chills running up their spines. It was as though they were being targeted by snakes. When they heard the black-clad young man's words, they regained their senses as horror dawned on them. Dugu, was that not the leader of the Mountainshade Black Market? At once, the few Dragon Clan's members gasped before they welcomed Dugu and the other 2 respectfully. Leader Dugu, 2 seniors, this way please. One of the Dragon Clan's members entered the Dragon Clan's lair first. After Dugu and the other 2 entered the Dragon Clan's lair, a purple-clad old woman appeared in front of them. Leader Dugu. The moment she appeared, she looked at Dugu and bowed respectfully. Faced with the old woman, Dugu merely nodded as a greeting. He was not interested in talking to her. Tisk tisk, Elder Ji Jing, it has been such a long time since I last saw you. A short and fat old man, one of the 2 old men standing behind Dugu, clicked his tongue and chuckled as he took the initiative to greet Ji Jing. Fatty Zhang, I can't believe you're still alive. The old woman was the 5-clawed divine dragon, Elder Ji Jing. She was a 5-clawed purple dragon. She had only noticed the short fatty after hearing his voice. She greeted him with a slight frown. There was a hint of dread in the depths of Ji Jing's eyes against the short fatty. This short fatty was known as Zhang Qishan. He was one of the deputy leaders of the Mountainshade Black Market, and he was a lot more powerful than her. Soon after, her gaze shifted to the other old man behind Dugu and greeted him, Deputy Leader Feng is here as well. This old man was none other than Feng Buyuyi, the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market. Elder Ji Jing, I'm sure you can guess the reason why we're here. When will the 5-year pact take place? Zhang Qishan asked without beating around the bush. The 5-year pact is set to happen in 3 days' time, Ji Jing replied. Has Mansion Master Duan Rufeng from Azure Cloud Mansion arrived yet? Zhang Qishan asked again. He arrived this morning, Ji Jing replied. Feng Buyuyi could not help but ask, how about his son? He's here as well, Ji Jing replied. Upon hearing her words, Feng Buyuyi and Zhang Qishan stood gazing at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. Mansion Master Duan Rufeng had actually shown up with his son. How did Duan Rufeng find his son? The people our Mountainshade Black Market sent out are stationed near the Crouching Dragon Lake where the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate is located. It's impossible for them not to inform us if Duan Rufeng's son has appeared. What's actually going on? Feng Buyuyi and Zhang Qishan transmitted their voices to each other. Their voices were filled with confusion and disbelief. However, it did not cross their minds, even in their wildest dreams, that Duan Rufeng and his son could reunite without alerting their Mountainshade Black Market's powerhouses was due to Duan Lingtian's amazing disguise tactic. When he used the disguising secret tactic, nobody could sense a trace of disguise no matter how powerful their divine consciousness was. Naturally, they did not know Duan Lingtian had returned to the Azure Cloud Mansion because he was in disguise. When Duan Lingtian left the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate a few days ago, he was not in disguise. The mountain-shade black market's powerhouses lurking in the dark had also noticed him immediately. However, they did not dare to make a move since Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of Azure Cloud Mansion was next to him. They only dared to reveal themselves and return to the mountain-shade black market's headquarters to report this after Duan Rufeng and the others had gone far away. However, when they returned, leader Dugu had already brought 2 men with him, leaving the headquarters of mountain-shade black market. Similar to Duan Rufeng and the others, they were headed to the Dragon Clan's lair. Unlike Duan Rufeng and the others who came to the Dragon Clan to fulfill their 5-year pact, they only came to watch the show and join in the fun. Due to this reason, Dugu and the other 2 missed the people who returned to report this matter. That was why they did not know Duan Rufeng's son had appeared. It was also why they were so shocked. Interesting. Unlike Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan who lost their composure, Dugu, the leader of mountain-shade black market, merely smiled indifferently, seemingly lost in his own thoughts when he heard Ji Jing's words. As expected from the leader of mountain-shade black market, when it came to remaining calm at all times, even Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan who were much older than him were no match for him. The reason Ji Jing showed herself was, naturally, to welcome the group of people from the mountain-shade black market. It was a mystery whether the Dragon Clan did it on purpose or not, but Ji Jing actually brought the 3 men and leader Dugu to the little valley where Qingyan had arranged for the group of people from the Azure Cloud Mansion to stay in. There were about 10 wooden houses in the little valley. 4 of them had been occupied by the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Moreover, their locations were strategic as well. The remaining ones were slightly further away. Leader Dugu, Vice Deputy Leaders, I'll see all of you again in 3 days. After bidding farewell to Dugu and the other 2, Ji Jing hurriedly left. As she turned around, a sneer appeared on her face. When 2 dogs fight with each other, they'll only end up with a mouthful of fur. Based on her words, it was clear she knew the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion was staying here. Moreover, it seemed as though she wished for the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion and the mountain-shade black market to fight. Are there other people here? After Ji Jing left, Dugu and the other 2 instantly discovered the 4 most strategically placed wooden houses were already occupied. Zhang Qishan's expression turned grave as he walked to the most strategically placed wooden house. The wooden house was located close to a waterfall in the little valley where there were a lot of vegetations. The air was fresh as well. It was a pleasant place to stay in. Zhang Qishan stood in front of the wooden house and shouted as his eyes gleamed murderously, "Get your ass out here." The powerful energy contained in his voice caused the door of the wooden house to tremble for a moment before it traveled inside the house. How noisy! As soon as Zhang Qishan's words left his mouth, a glum voice resonated from inside the house. What followed next was the sound of the wooden house's door quickly being opened before it was closed again. Naturally, the sound of the latter was very faint. Go away. The instant the glum voice sounded, another solemn voice sounded as well, shocking Zhang Qishan as horror dawned on him. Chapter 1853. Zhang Qishan could tell the voice behind him belonged to Dugu, the leader of their mountain-shade black market. Based on Dugu's tone, it was a warning. However, when he was still in shock and before he could even react, he sensed a suffocating pressure bearing down on him. At this moment, he felt like he could not breathe at all. Bang! In the next moment, a loud noise reverberated in the air. Zhang Qishan felt as though he had been hit by a huge hammer so violently that he was sent flying. Whoosh! Zhang Qishan was sent flying like an arrow that had been shot out, and he was about to crash against the mountain on the side of the valley when a figure appeared like a ghost behind him in a timely manner. A palm gently pushed out like God's hand as it stopped Zhang Qishan's fat and short body from crashing against the mountain. Although he would not die even if he crashed against the mountain, he would still be heavily injured. Mansion Master Duan, my subordinate has been rude. Please forgive us. Dugu's voice resonated by Zhang Qishan's ears as he stabilized himself. He still had not regained his senses. Apart from that, the tone their leader used was very polite as well. There was only one person in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who could make his leader speak in such a tone. It was none other than Mansion Master Duan Rufeng from the Azure Cloud Mansion. When Zhang Qishan raised his head, his face turned green and paled when he saw the young man standing in front of the wooden house. Just as expected, it was indeed Mansion Master Duan Rufeng from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Before he saw Duan Rufeng, he had fervently wished it was not Duan Rufeng even though he already knew the answer in the depth of his heart. When he saw with his own eyes it was really Duan Rufeng, a sense of despair washed over him. With Duan Rufang's innate talent and strength that was not inferior to their leader, it was impossible for him to seek revenge. Leader Dugu. Duan Rufang walked out of the wooden house and nodded his head indifferently in response to Dugu's greeting. Creak, creak, creak. At this moment, the doors of the 3 other wooden houses opened one after another. 3 figures walked out and stood next to Duan Rufang. Naturally, it was Duan Lingtian, Ku Mi, and Ji Yuli. When the 3 of them made their appearance, Zhang Qishan and Feng Biyuyi shifted their attention to Ku Mi. A hint of dread instantly appeared in their eyes. Ku Mi. Even if they joined forces, they were not entirely certain they could defeat Ku Mi. Unlike Zhang Qishan and Feng Biyuyi, after Duan Lingtian and the other 2 appeared, Dugu did not look at Ku Mi. Instead, his attention was on Duan Lingtian. He had seen this face more than once even though it was only on a portrait. Although it was just a portrait, it was quite vividly drawn and lifelike. With just one glance, he could immediately tell this person was the person in the portrait. He's Duan Rufang's son, Duan Lingtian. Dugu recognized the young man who resembled his old rival, Duan Rufang, a little. Zhang Qishan and Feng Biyuyi soon noticed Dugu's attention was on Duan Lingtian when they regained their senses. Their attention immediately shifted to Duan Lingtian as well. They were shocked when they first saw him as their breathing quickened. They exchanged a look and could see the surprise and confusion in each other's eyes. Isn't this person Duan Lingtian who possesses the Devil Seal tablet? I can't believe we actually encountered Duan Lingtian here. The Devil Seal tablet is with him. There was nothing but greed in Zhang Qishan and Feng Biyuyi's eyes as they looked at Duan Lingtian. Wait a minute, Feng Biyuyi was the first to regain his senses. According to the news leaked by the Dragon Clan, Duan Rufang's son's name also seems to be Duan Lingtian. Don't tell me they're the same person. The person who has the Devil Seal tablet is Duan Rufang's son. Zhang Qishan was stunned. At the same time, a hint of dread appeared in his eyes again when he thought of Duan Rufang. Duan Rufang was someone who was on par with their leader. If Duan Rufang wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as killing a chicken. Although they coveted the Devil Seal tablet, they forcefully suppressed their greed and chose life over death. If they died, was there any meaning in obtaining the Devil Seal tablet? Their lives were the most important. Everything else was ever-changing. After a long while, Dugu finally shifted his gaze away from Duan Lingtian to Duan Rufang and asked, "Mansion Master Duan, aren't you going to make introductions?" If it was not for the fact that Duan Lingtian had known earlier that this black-robed young man was leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market, he might even misunderstand and think he was a friend of his father. This was because there was no hostility emitting from that person at all. He did not seem like his father's enemy at all. The leader of Mountainshade Black Market is truly not a simple person. Duan Lingtian instantly put up a guard against Dugu. Someone adept in concealing their intention was the scariest. Someone who was obviously malicious was not terrifying at all in comparison. You know Ku Mi, so there's no need for me to introduce him. When Duan Rufang heard Dugu's words, he nodded before he looked at Duan Lingtian. Dugu expected Duan Rufang would introduce Duan Lingtian to him, but Duan Rufang shifted his gaze to Ji Yuli immediately. This is Ji Yuli. I'm sure you must have heard of this name before. He's a Mystical Sky Mansion's disciple and the strongest person on the Mystical Sky Mansion's Mystical Sky ranking. Ji Yuli. Dugu looked at Ji Yuli and nodded his head. I've heard of you before, you must be the son of Guardian Ji Yun of Mystical Sky Mansion. Earlier, when Ji Yuli saw Dugu, who was equally as famous as Duan Rufang, his heart began to beat rapidly. Now that he heard Dugu's words, he was so excited that his face even flushed red. He was too excited until he was rendered momentarily speechless. Good day, Leader Dugu. Ji Yuli nodded at Dugu after he took a deep breath. After Dugu nodded his head, he proceeded to ignore him and shifted his gaze back to Duan Lingtian. If I'm not mistaken, this person must be your son, Duan Lingtian, right? Mansion Master Duan, you're really lucky to possess the Devil Seal tablet. It's indeed a good item. When he spoke, he did not beat around the bush and brought up the Devil Seal tablet. The atmosphere in the air immediately turned tense. Everyone present on the scene, including the 2 deputy leaders from the Mountainshade Black Market, did not expect Dugu to casually bring up the Devil Seal tablet immediately. It was undoubtedly a sensitive time to mention the Devil Seal tablet at this moment. Whoosh! As soon as Dugu's words left his mouth, the Devil Seal tablet appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. Duan Lingtian, who was holding onto the Devilseal tablet, stared at Dugu intently. At this moment, he could feel the usual movements from the Devilseal tablet that was eager to rush out and kill Dugu. Dugu, the Mountainshade Black Market's leader, was a devil cultivator. Moreover, he was a devil cultivator at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, just like his father. However, with the Sun true origin in his body that was equivalent to a powerhouse at the divine saint stage, theoretically, he would be able to kill devil cultivators below the quintessential saint stage once he activated the Devilseal tablet. This included leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market as well. Between the two deputy leaders of the Mountainshade Black Market, Zhang Qishan was not a devil cultivator. He did not fear the Devilseal tablet. Instead, he felt a little curious. This is the Devilseal tablet. Feng Biyuyi was standing next to him. As a devil cultivator, he seemed to have sensed the deathly aura the moment Duan Lingtian took out the Devilseal tablet. His expression turned grim immediately, as though he was faced with a formidable enemy. As expected of the Devilseal tablet. To think it would make me feel threatened. Unlike Feng Biyuyi, who on guard against possible danger, Dugu did not even flinch when faced with Duan Lingtian, who was holding the Devilseal tablet. He said indifferently, "This means the person holding onto the Devilseal tablet is at the divine saint stage or above, since I feel this way." As expected of Duan Rufeng's son, your innate talent is indeed remarkable. You're not afraid of death. Duan Lingtian frowned when he saw Dugu was so calm. This Dugu, the Mountainshade Black Market's leader, was only a devil cultivator at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, so he was confident he could kill him, since theoretically he could kill all devil cultivators below the quintessential saint stage. Everyone is afraid of death, including me. However, do you really think you'll be able to kill me if you use the Devilseal tablet with your current strength? When Dugu reached the end of his sentence, he had a carefree expression on his face. It was as though he was not afraid the Devilseal tablet in Duan Lingtian's hand would be able to kill him. When Dugu saw Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave and his eyes gleamed coldly, he said without waiting for Duan Lingtian's response, "If you don't believe me, you can ask your father. Let alone me, you can't even kill your father with the Devilseal tablet if you use it with your current strength. Your cultivation base has to be at the peak of the divine saint stage at least if you want to kill us using the Devilseal tablet." Upon hearing his words, Duan Lingtian looked at his father Duan Rufeng. Duan Rufeng nodded and explained to him, "Usually, a Devilseal tablet can kill someone who is a stage higher than yourself in theory. Even a person at the early divine saint stage would be able to kill a devil cultivator at the peak of the exemplary saint stage when he activates the Devilseal tablet. However, Leader Dugu and my strength are not at the ordinary peak of the exemplary saint stage. If we want to, we can break through to the quintessential saint stage at any time." When Duan Rufeng reached this part of his sentence, he glanced at Dugu before he continued to say, "Put aside the fact that we can break through to the quintessential saint stage if we want it. Even if we can't, we don't fear the Devilseal tablet at all unless it's used by someone at the peak of the divine saint stage and above. This is because we have mastered a high-grade divine ability." High-grade divine ability. This was Duan Rufeng and Dugu's strength. With the help of the high-grade divine ability, even if the Devilseal tablet was activated by somebody at the early, intermediate or mastery divine saint stage, they were not afraid at all even though they were cultivators at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. I see. Upon hearing Duan Rufeng's words, Duan Lingtian finally understood. No wonder Leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market was so calm in front of the Devilseal tablet. As it turned out, he was not afraid of the Devilseal tablet at all. To be more precise, he was not afraid of Duan Lingtian using the Devilseal tablet on him. Chapter 1854. Why? Do you want to give it a try? Dugu asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian with narrowed eyes. Since you're so interested, I'll, naturally, be happy to indulge you, Leader Dugu. Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow upon hearing Dugu's words. The instant Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he raised the Devilseal tablet in his hand and threw it toward Dugu. Swish! The Devilseal tablet that was thrown out charged at Dugu like a cannonball. The terrifying aura around the Devilseal tablet put Deputy Leader Feng Biyuyi of Mountainshade Black Market on guard as though he was facing great danger. Even Dugu's expression gradually turned grave as well. Although Dugu was confident he would not be killed by the Devilseal tablet, no matter what, it was still the Devilseal tablet after all. It was the bane of all devil cultivators, so he did not dare to be reckless. Bang! The Devilseal tablet soon arrived near Dugu. The devil chi around it seemed to have transformed into a mountain as it bore down on Dugu. Dugu finally made his move when faced with the Devilseal tablet that was charging at him with full power. Whoosh, 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 he gently took a stride forward. At this instant, devil chi began to surge out of his body. In the next moment, many clone-like devil shadows emerged from his body rapidly. The number was extremely terrifying. In just a blink of an eye, they had covered the entire sky above the little valley. 10,000 devil invasion. Dugu hissed softly as the 10,000 devil shadows that burst out of his body began to make their moves. One after another, they charged at the Devilseal tablet that was about to land on him. Boom, 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 comma. The sound of air detonation sounded continuously in the wake of the Devilseal tablet. It was deafeningly loud. The devil chi was everywhere. It was like dark clouds that hung over a city. Swoosh, 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 comma. The 10,000 devil shadows continued to charge at the Devilseal tablet one after another, accompanied with dreadful cries and howls. They sounded like ghosts that had crept up from hell. The Devilseal tablet originally had the power to destroy the devil. Faced with these devil shadows, it killed them one after another. If these were devil cultivators made of flesh and blood, perhaps they would have long fled when faced with the Devilseal tablet's killing spree. However, the devil shadows were fearless. After 10 were annihilated, another 100 would charge out. After 100 was annihilated, another 1,000 would charge out. Just as the 1,000 devil shadows had been annihilated, Duan Lingtian discovered the remaining devil shadows had begun to form a formation. At this moment, Duan Lingtian even thought the devil shadows that were charging at the Devilseal tablet one after another were not as disorganized as they seemed. It seemed as though they were an entity. Boom! The Devilseal tablet continued to fall downward. At this moment, a scene that unfolded before Duan Lingtian's eyes took him by surprise. Currently, faced with the 10,000 devil shadows that were charging at the Devilseal tablet, it could not even kill one devil shadow at all. Moreover, it seemed to be restrained by the devil shadows. These devil shadows seemed to have joined forces to form a gigantic net, restraining the Devilseal tablet. This is the high-grade divine ability that Dugu mastered. The 10,000 devil invasion. Duan Lingtian gasped. Duan Lingtian did not expect Dugu to be so powerful. With just one divine ability, he managed to stop his Devilseal tablet. No wonder Dugu dared to boast that only a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Saint stage and above could kill him using the Devilseal tablet. Dugu was indeed qualified to say such words. Duan Lingtian became bored when he saw the Devilseal tablet could not do anything to Dugu at all. Initially, he thought he could use the Devilseal tablet to kill Dugu and help his father to get rid of trouble. However, it did not cross his mind that Dugu did not fear the Devilseal tablet when it was used by him. With just a thought, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and withdrew the Devilseal tablet. Dugu in the north, your reputation is indeed well deserved. Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Dugu. As expected from Duan Rufeng's son, you're so young, but you're already at the Divine Saint stage. Perhaps you may even surpass your father in the future. Dugu looked at Duan Lingtian as well. Dugu's eyes contained a hint of sincere admiration when he looked at Duan Lingtian. Although he previously wanted to capture Duan Lingtian, he did not intend to use him to threaten Duan Rufeng. He merely wanted to break Duan Rufeng's spirit a little. He would never stoop so low as to use a dirty trick in his rivalry with Duan Rufeng. For this reason, from the beginning until the end, he had never had any enmity with Duan Lingtian at all. Instead, he admired Duan Lingtian's innate talent. Thank you for the compliment, Leader Dugu. Duan Lingtian nodded his head nonchalantly. As though Dugu was reminded of something, he stared at Duan Lingtian intently before asking, if I'm not mistaken, that genius Lingtian who appeared in the mystical sky mansion must be you, right? What makes you say so? Duan Lingtian was, naturally, shocked when he heard Dugu's words. Not many people knew about this. Even the two deputy leaders of Mountainshade Black Market, Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan, were looking at each other. This young mansion master Duan Lingtian from the Azure Cloud Mansion is the genius disciple, Lingtian, in Mystical Sky Mansion. How is it possible? Both of them felt skeptical. Zhang Qishan looked at Feng Biyuyi and asked through voice transmission, Old Feng, you've been to the Mystical Sky Mansion before and have also seen that genius disciple, Lingtian. Does that person look like this young mansion master from the Azure Cloud Mansion? Or perhaps, he was in disguise. After all, Feng Biyuyi had once followed the order given to him and went to the mystical sky mansion to persuade Ling Tian to join them. Nobody else in the Mountainshade Black Market knew Ling Tian better than him. I'm certain Ling Tian from the mystical sky mansion did not disguise himself. As for whether Duan Ling Tian is in disguise now, I'm sure you can tell by yourself. Although their physiques and names are similar, they have a completely different appearance. It's really hard for me to believe they're the same person since both of them have no signs of disguise on their faces at all. Feng Biyuyi replied through voice transmission. His voice was filled with confusion and questions. Ling Tian from the mystical sky mansion was not in disguise. This is weird. How can two people who are not in disguise be the same person? What's going through Lord Leader's mind, I wonder, Zhang Qishan replied through voice transmission. He was baffled as well. What makes me say so? Dugu said unhurriedly with narrowed eyes when faced with Duan Ling Tian's calm expression, simple, your name and him. When he spoke, he looked at Ji Yuli who was standing next to Duan Rufeng. If I'm not mistaken, Ji Yuli, the son of guardian Ji Yu Yun from the mystical sky mansion, has very few friends due to his personality. He doesn't even have ordinary friends, let alone a good friend. Dugu continued to speak slowly. His words made Ji Yuli's heart jolt. He was not surprised Dugu knew this about him. If Dugu did not even know this, then he was not qualified to be the leader of the Mountainshade Black Market. Ji Yuli finally made a good friend when Ling Tian appeared in the mystical sky mansion. I just recalled Ling Tian and Ji Yuli had left the mystical sky mansion about half a year ago or so and seemingly went to the upper province. However, Ji Yuli's presence here today, coupled with your name, made it easy for me to figure out that you're Ling Tian. Dugu explained the reason behind his words. In the end, he even said, naturally, there's something I still haven't figured out. I don't know what technique you used to cover all signs of disguise on your face. It must be said that Duan Ling Tian's view of Dugu had changed after listening to him speak. Not only was leader Dugu of the Mountainshade Black Market terrifyingly strong, but he was also extremely intelligent. It made him feel uneasy. In front of Dugu, he felt as though he was seen through by him. This feeling made him extremely uncomfortable. When Ji Yuli heard Dugu's words, his eyes were as wide as saucers. He even had a look of admiration when he looked at Dugu. He did not expect Dugu would be able to figure this out. As for Duan Rufeng and Ku Mi, they were not surprised at all. After all, this was not their first encounter with Dugu. So, am I right? Dugu asked even though he already knew the answer when he saw Duan Ling Tian looking at him guardedly and remaining silent for a long time. As expected from the leader of the Mountainshade Black Market, it'd be hard for the Mountainshade Black Market to fall with you around. Duan Ling Tian answered sincerely after taking a deep breath. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Dugu was delighted. He immediately looked at Duan Rufeng and asked teasingly, Mansion Master Duan, do you feel irritated listening to your son praising me? It's well known in the lower province that you're intelligent, leader Dugu. Why should I feel irritated? Duan Rufeng replied indifferently. After taking a good look at Duan Rufeng and nodding at Duan Ling Tian, Dugu looked at Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan as he said, all right, then. Since it's just for a few nights, let's just make do with what's available. As soon as Dugu finished speaking, he walked into one of the wooden houses without waiting for Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan's response. His silhouette from the back looked elegant. Leader Dugu is quite unpredictable, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. If he was initially a little prejudiced toward Dugu for being the leader of Mountainshade Black Market and for being his father's rival, at this moment all the prejudice had disappeared. Naturally, this did not mean he was going to stay neutral in the rivalry between his father and Dugu. If his father fought with Dugu, he would, naturally, stand on his father's side due to their blood relations. He's actually Ling Tian. Since when did such an amazing disguising tactic appear in the Dao Martial Saint Land? The most confused person on the scene was undoubtedly Feng Biyuyi, the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market, who had once seen the genius disciple, Ling Tian, in the mystical sky mansion. It was because of this he was stunned by such an amazing disguising tactic. Although Zhang Qishan was also shocked and confused, it was nothing compared to what Feng Biyuyi felt. Feng Biyuyi had seen Duan Ling Tian twice. During these two times, not only did he have a different appearance, but it was completely undetectable by his divine consciousness. Chapter 1855, Zhang Qishan had only seen Duan Ling Tian for the first time today. Naturally, he was not as confused as Feng Biyuyi was. When they saw their leader had no intention of competing for a better accommodation in the little valley with the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion, Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan turned around obediently and entered the vacant wooden houses one after another. The little valley instantly regained its tranquility. Lord Mansion Master, the Dragon Clan must have intentionally arranged for the people from the Mountainshade Black Market to stay with us. Shall we ask for an explanation from them? They really have gone too far by doing this. Who am I? Said with a cold gleam in his eyes. There's no need for that. Duan Rufeng shook his head. The reason we came here is to fulfill the 5 years pact, not to create conflict with the Dragon Clan. Now that the 5-year pact is just around the corner, it's better for us not to raise more trouble. Moreover, there was no conflict between us and the people from the Mountainshade Black Market like they wished for. Although Duan Rufeng said this, a terrifyingly cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. The Dragon Clan really did go overboard, Ji Yuli chimed in. The Dragon Clan, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes glinted. Initially, he only had enmity with Diju. His hatred toward Diju did not affect his opinion of the Dragon Clan. However, he no longer had any good opinion of the Dragon Clan now. 3 days later, I must snatch the opportunity to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool from Diju during the Battle of the 5-year pact. At that time, I'd like to see what kind of expressions the members of the clan would be like, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He was determined to snatch the chance to enter the Dragon Cleansing Pool. To Duan Lingtian and the others, 3 days passed by in just a blink of an eye. When Duan Lingtian walked out of the wooden house on the 3rd day, he discovered his father, Elder Ku, and Ji Yuli were already waiting for him outside. On the other side, the 3 people from the Mountainshade Black Market had also risen in the air with leader Dugu in the lead. They all made their way to the venue to watch the show. When Duan Lingtian came out, Dugu immediately noticed him. Not only that, but Dugu stared at him intently before he brought the 2 deputy leaders from the Mountainshade Black Market away, disappearing in the sky above the little valley in just a blink of an eye. The direction they were heading in was in the east. It was where the Dragon Clan had decided to hold the battle for the 5-year pact. Let's go. Duan Lingtian was unwilling to be left behind when he saw Dugu, who had come to watch the show, had left before them. He motioned to Duan Rufeng and the other 2 before they left the little valley together and made their way east. The venue the Dragon Clan had arranged for the Battle of the 5-year pact was a huge valley situated at the east of the Dragon Clan's lair. This valley was extremely vast, but there were no signs of greeneries at all. It was a barren land, and it looked as though an earth-shattering war had taken place here. This was also the place where members of the Dragon Clan would have friendly matches. Although it was a friendly match, due to the strength of the members of the Dragon Clan, they would destroy the valley and cause a huge commotion even if they only used a little of their power. This was also why there were no signs of greeneries in this valley. Since it was destroyed so often, it was almost impossible for anything to grow here. So many people. When Duan Lingtian and the others arrived after Dugu and the other 2, they discovered many people in the sky above the valley. Naturally, most of these people were from the Dragon Clan. The remaining people were from other quasi-third-rate forces who also came to watch the show after they heard the news. Unlike Azure Cloud Mansion and Mountainshade Black Market, these people from the quasi-third-rate forces who came to watch the show were not led by any high-ranking officials. Good day, Mansion Master Duan. Due to this reason, each of them politely greeted and respectfully bowed at Duan Rufeng. After that, they began to shift their attention behind Duan Rufeng to look at Duan Lingtian. With just one glance, they could see the slight resemblance between this young man and Duan Rufeng. For this reason, they could tell he was the Duan Rufeng's son, young Mansion Master Duan Lingtian of Azure Cloud Mansion. It's him. At the same time, many people began to recall the portraits they had previously seen. One after another, they narrowed their eyes. The person on the portrait was identical to the young Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Moreover, the person on the portrait was also called Duan Lingtian. He was the lucky person who obtained the Devilseal Tablet, one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking despite not being that strong. He had seemingly vanished into thin air when everyone in the lower province of the Dalmartial Saint Land was searching for him to snatch the Devilseal Tablet away. The moment he disappeared, he was gone for several years. Due to this reason, they had gradually forgotten about this matter as well. If they had not seen him in person this time, perhaps, they would have completely forgotten the appearance of the young man in the portrait after another few years. Previously, I did find it quite coincidental when I heard the name of the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, since he has the same name as the person who possesses the Devil Seal tablet. It's not only the name, but even their appearances are the same. It's so obvious they're the same person. God is really unfair. It's acceptable that he possesses the Devil Seal tablet, but to think he's also the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. How's this fair? I can't believe the young man who obtained the Devil Seal tablet and disappeared as the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Many people whispered among themselves. They were shocked by the fact that the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was also the one who possessed the Devil Seal tablet. Duan Lingtian was already mentally prepared for his identity to be exposed, so he was not surprised. Rumor has it that the 5-year pact was proposed by Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion to clan leader Dishan of the Dragon Clan. They'll be represented by young Mansion Master Duan Lingtian of Azure Cloud Mansion and Diju, the successor of the clan leader of the Dragon Clan. I remember when the Devil Seal tablet appeared, it was said that it was obtained by a young man who didn't even break through to the pristine saint stage yet. Speaking of that young man must be the young Mansion Master of the Azure Cloud Mansion, Duan Lingtian. In other words, the young Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion was only a Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator a few years ago. The young Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion was a Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator who didn't even break through to the Saint stage a few years ago. Diju was already at the peak of the Divine Saint stage at that time. He was also merely a step away from breaking through to the Exemplary Saint stage. Two people with such a huge gap in strength is going to fight today. Are you sure this isn't a joke? How could the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion propose the 5-year pact? Isn't he just looking for trouble for his son? The discussion in the surroundings continued. Nobody had any good opinion about Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged faced with everyone's doubt. He had always been like that. He would let people talk as much as they liked. Nobody knew what the outcome would be until the end. Currently, it would be useless even if he was eloquent and said that he could defeat Diju. Only the result would shut their mouths. When the members of the Mountainshade Black Market and the Azure Cloud Mansion revealed themselves with their leaders in the lead, it, naturally, attracted a lot of attention from the crowd. I can understand the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion's presence here since he's involved in the 5-year pact. However, why is leader Dugu of the Mountainshade Black Market here as well? Don't tell me there's something special about the 5-year pact. If our Pavilion Master knew leader Dugu would be here, he would have come as well. How could we have known before we came that leader Dugu would be here to watch the show as well? The moment leader Dugu of the Mountainshade Black Market appeared, it caused a commotion since nobody expected him to be here. It must be because the pact was made by the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion and the Dragon Clan. As Mansion Master Duan's rival, it's only natural that he would come to join in the fun. If Mansion Master Duan's son is defeated, he could even mock Mansion Master Duan a little. Many people began to speculate. The Dragon Clan's members are here. Somebody said. Although his voice was not loud, many people heard his words. His words began to spread like wildfire. Everyone, including the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion and the Mountainshade Black Market, shifted their attention to the distant sky. 5 figures were making their way over here. The person in the lead wore a long golden robe. It was an old man that looked as sturdy and large as a pagoda. The moment he appeared, the members of the Dragon Clan present on the scene immediately bowed respectfully. Clan leader. Due to this reason, the old man's identity became obvious to everyone. He was none other than Dishan, the current clan leader of the Dragon Clan. Dishan was in the lead while 4 people walked next to each other behind him. There were 2 old men, 1 old woman, and 1 middle-aged man. All 5 of them were 5-clawed divine dragons. As the clan leader of the Dragon Clan, Dishan was a 5-clawed golden dragon. As for the 2 old men behind him, one wore a long red robe. He was the 5-clawed blood dragon, Shui Chan. He was also the Dragon Clan's enforcement elder. The other old man was Qing Yan, the 5-clawed green dragon, who welcomed Duan Lingtian and the others 3 days ago. As for the old woman, it was none other than Ji Jing, the 5-clawed purple dragon who had welcomed the people from the Mountainshade Black Market 3 days ago. The middle-aged man was none other than one of the leads for today, Diju. Just like Dishan, Diju was a 5-clawed golden dragon. They belonged to the Dragon Clan's Imperial Clan. As Dishan and the other 4 made their way over, not only the members of the dragon clan present on the scene bowed at Dishan to show their respects, but they even bowed at the two old men and the old woman behind him as well. As for Diju, one of the leads for today, very few people bowed at him since he did not have a strong sense of presence. Naturally, this did not mean anything. One could only say he was still too young. Diju. Duan Lingtian's gaze landed on Diju from afar. His calm expression had been replaced with a grim expression as terrifying killing intent flashed in his eyes. Diju had also noticed Duan Lingtian's gaze. Faced with the murderous gleam in Duan Lingtian's eyes, Diju slowly pointed his thumb up before he pointed it to the ground, provoking him. Chapter 1856. It was only natural that Duan Lingtian's expression turned even grimmer when he saw Diju provoking him. A rare unrestrained killing intent had also risen in his eyes. Leader Dugu, Mansion Master Duan. At the same time, clan leader Dishan of the Dragon Clan had also noticed leader Dugu of the Mountainshade Black Market and Mansion Master Duan Rufeng of the Azure Cloud Mansion in the distance. He smiled as he went up to them and took the initiative to greet them. Although Duan Rufeng was the one who proposed the 5-year pact, he did not treat him too differently. Just 2 days ago, he had learned from Elder Qing Yan, the 5-clawed divine dragon, that Duan Rufeng's son, Duan Lingtian, the lucky fellow who possessed the Devil Seal tablet, was only an eminent saint stage martial cultivator. If a martial cultivator who had not entered the divine saint stage were to fight Diju who did not break through to the exemplary saint stage, he still would not stand a chance in winning, let alone fighting Diju who had already broken through to the exemplary saint stage already. For this reason, in his opinion, the 5-year pact that Duan Rufeng proposed 5 years ago was merely a way out for him. After all, Duan Rufeng had gotten into a huge dispute with their dragon clan at that time. As for why Duan Rufeng needed a reason to retreat, it must be because he was wary of the dragon clan in the upper province that supported them. He must not have dared to cause a huge uproar in their dragon clan. Clan leader Dishan. Dugu nodded his head at Dishan and greeted him in a slightly cold manner as though he did not think very highly of him. It was a fact that he did not think very highly of Dishan. Dishan was merely a 5-clawed golden dragon who did not enter the dragon clan's saint land, the dragon cleansing pool. He could not even compare to Dugu in terms of innate talent and strength. As for the dragon clan behind Dishan and the dragon clan in the upper province, he was not bothered with them at all. This was because his Mountainshade Black Market was also a very powerful sect in the upper province. It was not inferior to the dragon clan in the upper province. As for Duan Rufeng, he did not speak at all. He merely glanced at Dishan indifferently and nodded. Dishan was not angry at all as he remained smiling. One could see just how powerful the clan leader of the dragon clan was and how magnanimous he was. At the very least, this was the case on the surface of things. As for what truly lay in his heart, nobody had a clue at all. Unlike Dishan's calm demeanor, Shui Chan, Ji Jing, and Qing Yan who were standing behind Dishan were furious. It was as though they were going spout flames of wrath at any given time when they saw the way Duan Rufeng treated their clan leader. Naturally, they had to endure and suppress their anger. What could they even do anyway? Could they attack Duan Rufeng to teach him a lesson? Even if they had the courage to do that, would they be a match for him? 3 of them knew this very well. It could be seen from the way they had endured everything. Dishan shifted his attention to Duan Lingtian who was next to Duan Rufeng. He smiled at Duan Lingtian before he asked Duan Rufeng politely, "Mansion Master Duan, is this the young Mansion Master?" Duan Rufeng merely nodded in response to Dishan's question. Dishan seemed accustomed to his behavior and did not show any signs of displeasure. Instead, he turned to Duan Lingtian and smiled. "Young Mansion Master, you're really a fine-looking man. Not only that, but I've heard you're the lucky young man who possesses the Devil Seal tablet, one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking. In fact, that Devil Seal tablet is a super saint weapon that even an upper province powerhouse would covet." There was an underlying meaning in his words. Although the Dragon Clan had searched for Duan Lingtian upon Diju's request, most of them only knew he was called Duan Lingtian. They did not know how he looked like. Due to this reason, although they had seen Duan Lingtian's portrait who was said to possess the Devil Seal tablet, they did not make the connection that the Duan Lingtian they were searching for was the same person. They only discovered this when the 5-clawed divine dragon, Elder Qing Yan, saw Duan Lingtian 3 days ago. Naturally, if Diju was not in closed-door cultivation during the past 5 years, he would have found out about the Devil Seal tablet. If he had found out about the Devilseal tablet, he would have seen Duan Lingtian's portrait. At that time, he would be able to confirm this was the same Duan Lingtian whom he hated and was searching for. Among the people present on the scene today, nobody knew the Duan Lingtian who possessed the Devilseal tablet was the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion except for leader Dugu and Duan Lingtian. Although Dugu knew about it, he did not spread the news. However, he did personally try to look for Duan Lingtian to snatch the Devilseal tablet away from him. As a devil cultivator, he, naturally, would not be able to use it. However, he did not wish for a weapon that could kill him to fall into someone else's hands. Clan leader Dishan, you flatter me. I was just lucky, Duan Lingtian replied without changing his expression when he heard Dishan's praise. As eyes that were filled with greed and heat in the surroundings shifted to him, Duan Lingtian said to Dishan again, Clan leader Dishan, if it's possible, I'd like to proceed to the battle of the 5-year pact with Diju, the next clan leader of the Dragon Clan, as soon as possible. Duan Lingtian did not beat around the bush and went straight to the main topic. Since you've asked, young Mansion Master, I, naturally, have no objections. I'm sure Mansion Master Duan and Diju won't object to it as well. From the beginning until the end, the smile remained on Dishan's face. In his opinion, the outcome of the 5-year pact had already been decided. Diju would definitely win. As for the reason the young Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion wanted to start the fight as soon as possible was so that he could go home quickly after he was defeated. All this was merely a formality. Then, just as Dishan was about to announce the start of the battle between Duan Lingtian and Diju, Duan Lingtian interrupted him. Clan leader Dishan, before we begin the battle of the 5-year pact, I'd like to issue a death duel invitation to Diju. The battle today will be a battle of life and death. It won't end until one of us dies. The moment his words left his mouth, he shifted his gaze to Diju. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely obvious. 5 years ago, he had annihilated Lingtian sect. There were less than 20 survivors from the Lingtian sect. Due to Diju's strength, he could only suppress his hatred at that time. Today, at this moment, during the battle of the 5-year pact, he no longer had to suppress the hatred he had buried in the bottom of his heart. Instead, he let them rise and burst out. Once he let his hatred out, it was similar to a dam that was broken by a flood. Diju must die. This was the only thought left in Duan Lingtian's mind at this moment. Only by killing Diju could he avenge the vice sect leaders, elders, and disciples of the Lingtian sect. A battle of life and death would not rest until one of them died. Dishan's smile dimmed a little when he was interrupted. However, his heart jolted when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. There was a hint of confusion in Dishan's eyes as he looked at Duan Lingtian. He was stunned as well. Where did Duan Lingtian get his confidence from? To think he wants to issue a death duel invitation. Don't tell me he's not afraid of death or he's confident he can kill Diju. The moment he thought of this, his heartbeat increased by a few beats. At the same time, he slightly regretted agreeing to the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion's proposal. An ominous feeling rose up in his heart at this moment. He felt that it was a trap that Duan Rufeng had laid out. A trap that had been 5 years coming. It was only natural for Dishan to be filled with these thoughts. After all, not everybody had the courage to issue a death duel invitation. Whoever dared to issue a death duel invitation was usually confident in killing their opponents. Due to this reason, Dishan had momentarily forgotten that Duan Lingtian was merely an eminent saint stage martial cultivator. A battle of life and death won't end until one of us dies. Diju was not the only one who was surprised. Everyone, including Duan Rufeng, Ku Mi, and Ji Yuli, was also shocked when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. They did not expect Duan Lingtian to request for this. Interesting. Dugu, who was also shocked by Duan Lingtian's request, immediately regained his senses. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes shone brightly with a hint of approval. Regardless if Duan Lingtian really possessed the strength to kill Diju, his courage alone was enough to impress Dugu. Tianer. Duan Rufeng was the second person who regained his senses. His expression had turned solemn. He instantly transmitted his voice to his son to warn him. Diju has already broken through to the exemplary saint stage. I can deal with this matter if you want to take back your words. There were 2 reasons for Duan Rufeng's words. First, he wanted to know if his son was really confident he could kill Diju. Second, he meant what he said about helping his son to get out of this mess. He trusted Duan Lingtian and the old prophet who was mysterious and elusive. It was the old prophet who instructed him to make the 5-year pact with the dragon clan after all. According to the old prophet, if his son was able to enter the dragon clan's saint land, the dragon cleansing pool, it would greatly impact his son's future. Due to this reason, although he did not have much confidence in his son, he chose to trust in his son and the old prophet. Upon hearing Duan Rufeng's voice transmission, Duan Lingtian felt a sense of warmth enveloping his heart. He replied through voice transmission confidently, "Father, don't worry. I'm confident about this." In truth, when Duan Lingtian heard from Duan Rufeng that Diju had already broken through to the exemplary saint stage, his heart sank a little. Chapter 1857. Diju had already broken through to the exemplary saint stage. This was not good news for Duan Lingtian. Although he had thought of this possibility, he could not believe it actually happened and had taken him by surprise. Diju was the dragon clan's 5-clawed golden dragon from the imperial family. His cultivation base was at the early exemplary saint stage. If he used his Jasper celestial sword, he could instantly kill Diju with his current cultivation base. However, how could he casually use the Jasper celestial sword? Put aside the amount of Sun true origin that had to be infused into the Jasper celestial sword to kill Diju, just the matter of the Jasper celestial sword being exposed would endanger his family and friends. The Jasper celestial sword was a celestial supreme treasure. Perhaps, nobody in the Dao Martial Saint land understood this, but when someone at the Divine Saint stage managed to kill a 5-clawed golden dragon at the early exemplary saint stage instantly with just a sword, it was no different from announcing to the world how extraordinary the sword was. In fact, even the famous 9-cloud sword on the 10 great saint weapons ranking was not as monstrous as this. The 9-cloud sword was more than enough to cause powerhouses in the upper and lower province to fight to death, let alone a sword that was even more powerful than the 9-cloud sword. If I activate the Jasper celestial sword, Dishan and leader Dugu would definitely notice how extraordinary the sword is. When news of this spread out, not only will I be a target, but even my parents and the others will be affected as well. At that time, they won't be able to stay in the Azure Cloud Mansion and can only run away with me. The moment he thought of this, he shook his head. The temptation of the Devilseal tablet could not compare to the Jasper celestial sword at all. Perhaps, some powerhouses from the upper province might not be interested in the Devilseal tablet. However, even powerhouses standing at the top of the upper province would covet the Jasper celestial sword. I can't use the Jasper celestial sword. Duan Lingtian quickly made up his mind. With my current strength, I'll be on par with Diju even if I don't use the Jasper celestial sword. If I'm really unable to defeat him, I can't risk using the Jasper celestial sword unless I'm on the brink of death. Otherwise, I'll just have to accept defeat and gain a bad reputation when father rescues me. Duan Lingtian finally calmed down a little after he took a deep breath. In Duan Lingtian's eyes, between reputation and life, he would undoubtedly choose the latter. Currently, his life did not only belong to him. Only if he stayed alive would he be able to go to the upper province to look for Ka and their child. To him, some people were more important than his own life. As long as you're confident. Although Duan Rufeng did not know where his son got his confidence from, he chose to believe in him. After a while, as though he just remembered something, Duan Rufeng said again through voice transmission, "Tianer, I'm saying if you really." Duan Lingtian interrupted his father's voice transmission and asked, "If I really can't defeat him, you'll rescue me, right?" "That's right." Duan Rufeng nodded. "You're my only son. Even if I gain a bad reputation for not keeping my words, I'll definitely save you. Dishan will definitely intervene if I make a move, but I'm capable of saving you even if he intervenes," Duan Rufeng said confidently as though the clan leader of the Dragon Clan was nothing in his eyes, and that was indeed the case. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint land, only he and Mountainshade Black Market's leader Dugu's strength was on par with each other. As for the other leaders from the quasi-third-rate forces, including the clan leader of the Dragon Clan, they could not compare to him at all. If they fought, he was confident he could kill Dishan in 10 moves. Although Dishan was a 5-clawed golden dragon from the imperial family, he did not reach his full potential because he did not enter the dragon cleansing pool. There was nothing for him to be worried about. Duan Lingtian smiled before he asked through voice transmission, "Father, the reason you intentionally told me this, could it be that you're afraid I wouldn't want you to rescue me?" "Yes," Duan Rufeng responded. He was indeed worried about this. He feared his son would be stubborn and adhere to traditional rules. He was afraid his son would decide to die once he issued a death duel invitation and could not defeat Diju, putting more importance on his reputation rather than his life. Duan Lingtian chuckled as he replied through voice transmission, "Father, I still want to find Ka, so I value my life more than you value mine." Upon hearing his words, Duan Rufeng sighed in relief. It was fortunate his son was not a pedantic person. Instead, he knew how to analyze a situation before making a decision. Meanwhile, everyone regained their senses as well. "Junior brother Lingtian, you're too rash. How could you recklessly issue a death duel invitation to Diju? This is too risky." Ji Yuli immediately transmitted his voice to dissuade Duan Lingtian. His tone was filled with anxiety. "Young mansion master, you're too rash." Even Ku Mi, who was usually taciturn, could not help but transmit his voice to Duan Lingtian. "Young mansion master, Diju has already broken through to the exemplary saint stage. If you regret your decision, I'll deal with the mess on your behalf." Ku Mi's words were similar to Duan Rufeng's words. It was only natural for Duan Lingtian to feel a sense of warmth when he heard Ji Yuli and Ku Mi's words. He could tell both of them sincerely cared about him and worried about his safety. "Don't worry," Duan Lingtian replied using voice transmission. "Death duel won't rest until one of us dies." At the same time, everyone, including Diju, who was one of the leads today, shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian. It was apparent that he was not very strong to begin with. They did not think he would seek death on his own accord. Does the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion want to die? It seems like it. Otherwise, why would he do that? You can't be sure of this. Maybe the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is really confident he could kill Diju. Indeed, there are usually only two types of people who dare to issue the death duel invitation. The first type is those who are confident in winning, while the second type is the type that seeks death. The young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion doesn't seem like someone who's seeking death. The people from the other quasi-third-rate forces discussed among themselves. Their eyes did not leave Duan Lingtian and Diju from the beginning until the end. The young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is daring enough to issue a death duel invitation to Diju. The Dragon Clan's members present on the scene exchanged glances with each other. All of them could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. The news about Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base had also spread through the Dragon Clan during these 3 days. According to their Dragon Clan's 5-clawed divine dragon, Elder Qing Yan, Duan Lingtian's divine consciousness was merely the divine consciousness of an eminent saint stage martial cultivator. As the successor of their clan leader, Diju was a 5-clawed golden dragon with high innate talent. Coupled with his cultivation base that had broken through to the exemplary saint stage, would it not be easy as killing an ant for him to kill an eminent saint stage martial cultivator? In their opinion, there was no suspense at all in the battle today. Everything was merely a formality. However, when they were feeling at ease and certain the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion would take the initiative to admit defeat, he announced that he wanted to issue a death duel invitation to their Dragon Clan's 5-clawed golden dragon, Diju. Was he not seeking death? This was the thought on the minds of every member from the Dragon Clan. The few 5-clawed divine dragon elders present on the scene, such as Shui Chan, Ji Jing, and Qing Yan, were standing and looking at each other with a dumbfounded expression. "Qing Yan, are you certain his divine consciousness is only at the eminent saint stage?" Shui Chan asked in a deep voice. "I'm certain," Qing Yan answered confidently. 3 days ago, Duan Lingtian had tried to probe him, but his divine consciousness was shattered by him instead. At that time, he discovered that Duan Lingtian's divine consciousness was merely at the eminent saint stage. Moreover, it was not even at the peak of the eminent saint stage. This meant that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the mastery eminent saint stage at most. Not only that, but his cultivation base might be even lower than the mastery eminent saint stage. In that case, why would he take the initiative to issue the death duel invitation? He's Duan Rufeng's son. Not only that, but look at how he's acting. It doesn't seem like he's seeking death. Ji Jing frowned. She was baffled. Diju, who was standing near the 3 5-clawed divine dragon elders, had also regained his senses. He was shocked. He did not expect this ant would issue a death duel invitation to him. Was he not just seeking death? Faced with Duan Lingtian's death duel invitation, Diju sneered as he muttered under his breath, "Since you're seeking death, you can't blame me then." Whoosh! Without warning, Diju took a step forward in the air and looked at Duan Lingtian before he said, "I agree." When Diju was about to accept Duan Lingtian's challenge, he was interrupted. Wait a minute, Diju was naturally angry at being interrupted. He frowned immediately. However, he regained his senses when he realized the voice sounded familiar. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a tall and sturdily built old man. It was none other than clan leader Dishan. Although Diju did not manage to finish speaking, as soon as he stepped forward, everyone knew he was going to accept the death duel invitation issued by Duan Lingtian. However, he was interrupted by Dishan at the critical moment. Everyone immediately shifted their attention to Dishan. They did not know why Dishan would choose to interrupt Diju at this moment. Was he worried that Diju would be killed by Duan Lingtian? Or did he have something to tell Diju at the last minute? Clan leader. Diju could act arrogantly in front of the others, but he could never be arrogant in front of clan leader Dishan. However, his eyes were filled with confusion. He did not understand why Dishan would interrupt him. Chapter 1858. Dishan, who interrupted and stopped Diju, ignored his questioning looks. Dishan's eyes immediately shifted to Duan Lingtian. Young mansion master, are you certain you want to have a death duel with Diju? This isn't a joke. Once Diju officially accepts your death duel invitation, it won't stop until one of you dies. He won't show you any mercy even if you're the young mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion. Have you thought about this thoroughly? Dishan asked. What, do you think I'm joking, clan leader Dishan? Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly with narrowed eyes when he heard Dishan's words. I just wanted to give you a reminder, Dishan replied. Thank you for your concern, clan leader Dishan. However, I won't go back on my words. For the 5-year pact, let's turn it into a death duel. If Diju and the Dragon Clan don't dare to accept the challenge, please admit defeat as soon as possible. I'm waiting to enter your Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool, to have a bath. Duan Lingtian sounded a little impatient when he reached the end of his sentence. He wanted to enter the Dragon Clan's Saint Land, the Dragon Cleansing Pool, to have a bath. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, every member from the Dragon Clan who was present was infuriated that they felt like throwing up blood. Duan Lingtian's words clearly insulted their Dragon Clan's Saint Land. All the members of the Dragon Clan present instantly glared at Duan Lingtian. Accept it. Accept it. Let it be a death duel. They were ablaze with indignation, and many of them spoke up one after another, asking Diju to accept Duan Lingtian's death duel invitation. They could not endure this anger at all. The people from the other quasi-third-rate forces were dumbfounded as well. They did not expect the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion to be this arrogant. It was as though he did not take the dragon seriously at all. The two deputy leaders of Mountainshade Black Market looked at each other while leader Dugu's gaze was filled with a little admiration. Tianer, Duan Rufeng appeared calm when he looked at Duan Lingtian. However, the truth was he was not calm at all. Ji Yuli and Ku Mi felt the same way as well. Truthfully speaking, they did not think Duan Lingtian's chances of winning was high. However, the situation had gone beyond their control. Clan leader, Diju looked at Dishan. He could no longer tolerate Duan Lingtian's arrogance. However, currently, the right to decide was not in his hands. Since the clan leader had intervened, he did not dare to accept the invitation no matter how furious he was until he obtained his clan leader's permission. It seems like you're very confident, young mansion master. Dishan continued to ignore Diju. His gaze was still firmly trained on Duan Lingtian. As soon as Dishan finished speaking, a powerful divine consciousness swept out at Duan Lingtian like a torrential flood and shrouded him. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt as though he had been completely seen through. You probed my cultivation base. When Duan Lingtian discovered Dishan had probed his cultivation base, not only was he not angry, but he seemed even happier instead. There was no need to guess, he was certain Dishan would no longer suspect he would be able to kill Diju after probing his cultivation base. After all, his cultivation base was only at the eminent saint stage. It was not worth mentioning at all in front of Diju. No matter how careful Dishan was, it was impossible for him to think that an eminent saint stage martial cultivator would be a match for Diju. Dishan, how dare you? Duan Rufeng was furious when Dishan extended his divine consciousness to probe Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. A much stronger divine consciousness surged out of his body and slammed violently against Dishan's divine consciousness. Dishan's divine consciousness felt very powerful to Duan Lingtian. However, in front of Duan Rufeng's divine consciousness, it was nothing at all. In just a moment, it was already shattered by Duan Rufang's divine consciousness. Di Shan turned dizzy when he suffered the attack on his divine consciousness. Colors instantly drained from his face. Although his soul suffered a certain amount of injury, he was not bothered by it at all. In fact, he even had a smile on his slightly pale face. Intermediate Eminent Saint stage. The young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is only at the intermediate Eminent Saint stage. All the doubts and hesitation in his heart vanished immediately. How could an intermediate Eminent Saint stage martial cultivator possibly be a match for Di Ju? Di Shan immediately felt he had been too cautious. However, he did not regret his actions at all. As the saying went, caution is the parent of safety. As the clan leader of the Dragon Clan, he must consider every decision he made. He had stopped Di Ju earlier because he was worried Duan Lingtian was really capable of killing Di Ju. Due to this reason, he risked the chance of having his divine consciousness being shattered by Duan Rufeng to probe Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. Only then could he make the best decision. Di Shan finally made up his mind. Di Ju, his cultivation base is only at the intermediate Eminent Saint stage. Di Shan instantly transmitted his voice to Di Ju and nodded at him as a sign of approval. Naturally, Di Ju had seen Di Shan's earlier action. He knew Di Shan was probing Duan Lingtian's cultivation base with his divine consciousness in order to confirm the risk involved if he were to accept Duan Lingtian's death duel invitation. Intermediate Eminent Saint stage. Di Ju was slightly stunned when he heard Di Shan's words. Although he had already heard from Elder Qingyan that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was at the Mastery Eminent Saint stage at most and possibly lower, he was delighted when he got this confirmation from Di Shan. A person at the intermediate Eminent Saint stage wanted to have a death duel with him. It was apparent Duan Lingtian came here to seek death. A surge of confidence rose in Di Ju's heart. He instantly looked at Duan Lingtian and announced in a slightly happy voice, "Duan Lingtian, I accept your challenge." The Dragon Clan has also accepted the challenge. Upon hearing Di Ju's answer, the member of the Dragon Clan broke out in an uproar immediately. Kill him. Many young members of the Dragon Clan chanted loudly. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The suppressed emotions in their hearts had also vanished without a trace. Intermediate Eminent Saint stage. At the same time, the three Dragon Clan's five-clawed divine dragon elders who were present on the scene also relaxed when they learned of Duan Lingtian's cultivation base from Di Shan. Is Duan Lingtian a fool? His cultivation base is only at the intermediate Eminent Saint stage, but he actually dared to issue a death duel invitation to Di Ju. I think he's just seeking death. Whether it was Qingyan, Ji Jing, or Shui Chan, all of them were certain Duan Lingtian would definitely die today. An intermediate Eminent Saint stage powerhouse was going to fight an early exemplary Saint stage powerhouse. There was no suspense in this battle at all. Di Ju, after you kill him, take his spatial ring. The Devilseal tablet must be in his spatial ring. If you obtain the Devilseal tablet and hand it over to the Dragon Clan in the Upper Province, it would be a great merit for both of us. In the future, when we leave for the Upper Province, we'll have special privileges in the Dragon Clan. Di Shan transmitted his voice to Di Ju. There was a hint of excitement in his voice when he spoke. Di Ju's heart sank upon hearing his words. Initially, he planned to keep the Devilseal tablet after killing Duan Lingtian. However, it seemed like it was not possible now. Forget it. The Devilseal tablet isn't something that originally belongs to me anyway. Just like the clan leader said, once I obtain the Devilseal tablet and hand it over to the Dragon Clan in the Upper Province, I'll definitely receive special treatment when I go to the Upper Province in the future. The moment Di Ju thought of this, he was able to let go of his greed. Whether it was him or Di Shan, although they were both five-clawed golden dragons from the imperial clan of the Dragon Clan, it was only limited to the lower province. In the Dragon Clan in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, a five-clawed golden dragon was nothing. Their position was equal to an ordinary six-clawed divine dragon. In the Dragon Clan in the upper province, there were even seven-clawed divine dragons, let alone a six-clawed divine dragon. With his birthright, he would be able to become the clan leader in the lower province's Dragon Clan, but he would be nothing in the upper province's Dragon Clan. If he could present them with the Devilseal tablet, things would be different. In order to reward him, the powerhouses from the Dragon Clan in the upper province would definitely treat him well when he went there. In his opinion, this was something good. Don't worry, clan leader. I'll definitely get my hands on the Devilseal tablet. Di Ju transmitted his voice to Di Shan. I believe in you, Di Shan responded. he was confident in Diju's strength. Moreover, Diju's cultivation was already at the early exemplary saint stage, and his opponent's cultivation base was only at the intermediate eminent saint stage. A whole divine saint stage stood in the gap between their strength. Duan Lingtian could not possibly be a match for Diju. When everyone from the other quasi-third-rate forces heard Diju's answer and shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian said, "In that case, let's sign a death pact." His expression and his voice were calm. At this moment, it seemed as though Duan Lingtian would remain unaffected even if a mountain collapsed in front of him. "All right," Diju began to say before he suddenly changed his tone and said, "Wait. There's no need for that." This was after he received a voice transmission from Dishan. Everyone, including Duan Lingtian, looked at Diju. "For the death duel between you and I, let's swear on the lightning penalty oath that we'll fight for our life by relying on our strength. Moreover, nobody is allowed to intervene in this matter. If anyone tries to intervene, the person who's rescued will have to die." Diju said every word clearly as he looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold gaze. Upon hearing his words, everyone could not help but gasp. If they really swore on the lightning penalty oath, then this meant that even Mansion Master Duan Rufeng would not be able to rescue his son at the critical moment. Many people instantly turned to look at Duan Rufeng just in time to see the slight change of expression on his face. When Diju saw Duan Rufeng's slight change of expression, he smiled brilliantly. He could tell even Mansion Master Duan Rufeng did not have much confidence in his son. Otherwise, his expression would not have changed when he heard Diju's words. Dishan had also noticed Duan Rufeng's slight change of expression. Not only that, but he had also seen the horror on Ji Yuli and Kumi's faces. Chapter 1859. When Dishan saw the changes of expressions on Duan Rufeng, Ji Yuli, and Kumi's faces, he began to feel at ease. I really wonder where did the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion get his courage from? Things have already escalated to this stage, and yet, he still looks unfazed. Dishan looked at Duan Lingtian, baffled. Dishan stared intently at Duan Lingtian's eyes. Suddenly, at this moment, he managed to glimpse a hint of dread flashing through Duan Lingtian's eyes. Although it was just a moment, it was still seen by him. It seems like the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is not as calm as he looks. However, if he dares to swear on the lightning penalty oath as suggested by Diju, he'll definitely die today. Dishan thought to himself. Earlier, he was the one who had transmitted his voice to Diju and suggested they swear on the lightning penalty oath. He was worried Duan Rufeng would intervene during the critical moment. He knew if Duan Rufeng chose to intervene in the matter, he would not be able to stop him from saving Duan Ling. That was why he thought this would be a good idea to nip this possibility in the bud. If Duan Lingtian swore on the lightning penalty oath as suggested by Diju, he would still die even if Duan Rufeng rescued him. The 9-9 heavenly tribulation would definitely kill him. Dishan was obviously not a simple person since he was the clan leader of the Dragon Clan. He was even able to slightly change the expression on Duan Rufeng's face by suggesting this. Tianer, if you're not confident, you can just admit defeat for this 5-year pact. Duan Rufeng immediately told Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. In his heart, his son's safety was the most important. Meanwhile, Diju had already sworn on the lightning penalty oath and the tribulation oath had also resonated accordingly as 9 claps of thunder sounded. Duan Lingtian, it's your turn. After Diju swore on the lightning penalty oath, he looked at Duan Lingtian. You won't change your mind at this moment, right? When he spoke, he looked at Duan Lingtian mockingly. Faced with Diju's provocation, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed fiercely. In the end, he also swore on the lightning penalty oath. Boom, 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 boom. 9 claps of thunder sounded again after Duan Lingtian swore on the lightning penalty oath. At this moment, whether it was Diju or Duan Lingtian, none of them could go back on their words. Otherwise, even if they did not kill themselves if someone rescued them, the lightning penalty oath would kill them. Swearing on the lightning penalty oath was also Duan Lingtian's way of responding to Duan Rufeng. Tianer, be careful. At this moment, Duan Rufeng knew it was useless to say any more words. Since his son had already agreed to Diju's suggestion and swore on the lightning penalty oath, it was apparent he was quite confident. For this reason, he continued to choose to believe in his son. Junior brother Lingtian, all the best. Kill Diju. Although Ji Li did not think Duan Lingtian's chance of winning was very high, he could only hope for the best and cheer for Duan Lingtian. Ku Mi remained silent. However, his gaze was enough to show the concern he had for his young mansion master. Good, very good. Duan Lingtian, you didn't let me down. Di Ju's heart was at ease when he saw Duan Lingtian had sworn on the lightning penalty oath. He chuckled before smiling brilliantly. You fooled me that time, and you're going to pay for it with your death today. Di Ju looked at Duan Lingtian with killing intent shining in his eyes. At that time, for the sake of his dead son, Di Yong, he had gone to Half Moon Island to investigate, but he was deceived by Duan Lingtian. Until now, when he recalled that incident, he still felt greatly humiliated. Currently, it did not seem important for him to avenge Di Yong anymore. He only wanted to kill Duan Lingtian and wash away the humiliation. Not only that, but he also wanted to snatch the Devil Seal tablet and hand it over to the Upper Province's Dragon Clan to perform a meritorious deed. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was as good as dead. You have to possess that capability if you want to kill me. Duan Lingtian sneered when he heard Di Ju's words as his expression turned solemn immediately. Hints of killing intent shone in his eyes as well. What, do you doubt my ability? Di Ju laughed out loud as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. After a long while, his laughter finally died down. I truly wonder where you get your courage from. You're merely at the intermediate eminent saint stage, but you actually dare to issue a death duel invitation to me, an early exemplary saint stage powerhouse. Soon you'll see that killing you is akin to stepping on an ant for me. The moment Di Ju's words left his mouth, the entire place was in an uproar. Duan Lingtian is at the intermediate eminent saint stage. He's joking, right? Impossible. Everybody shook their heads when they heard Di Ju's words. Not many people believed him. Naturally, there was a small number of people who was daring enough to probe Duan Lingtian using their divine consciousness. He's really at the intermediate eminent saint stage. My goodness. The young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion's cultivation base is really at the intermediate eminent saint stage. What's going through his mind? Crazy. He must be crazy. When almost everyone probed Duan Lingtian's true cultivation base, the entire scene burst into another commotion because they discovered Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was truly at the intermediate eminent saint stage. Intermediate eminent saint stage. Leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market was curious and could not help but extend his divine consciousness toward Duan Lingtian as well. Soon after, he also discovered Duan Lingtian's true cultivation base. He's really at the intermediate eminent saint stage. Dugu, who was experienced and intelligent, was also shocked after discovering Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. At the same time, the two deputy leaders of Mountainshade Black Market standing behind him, Feng Biyuyi and Zhang Qishan, had also probed Duan Lingtian's cultivation base and were dumbfounded as well. How's this possible? If this Duan Lingtian is Lingtian from Mystical Sky Mansion, he should possess strength that's not inferior to a powerhouse at the peak of the eminent saint stage, and that was a year ago. With Mountainshade Black Market's network, they knew very well how Duan Lingtian had killed the group of Mastery Eminent Saint stage powerhouses. He even killed a powerhouse at the peak of the Eminent Saint stage from the Zhao clan in Mystical Sky Mansion. Due to this reason, they found it hard to believe that Duan Lingtian was just an intermediate Eminent Saint stage martial cultivator. Don't tell me Duan Lingtian's cultivation base can decline. Zhang Qishan was astounded. It's indeed very peculiar. Feng Biyuyi also nodded his head. He had a baffled expression on his face. There are many outstanding powerhouses in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who possess strength that's far stronger than their cultivation base. Such a situation is only rare in the lower province. Dugu, who regained his senses, said nonchalantly, just wait and see. Duan Lingtian's strength must not be any weaker than Di Ju. Based on his words, it was apparent he had confidence in Duan Lingtian. His strength must not be any weaker than Di Ju. Just with his cultivation base at the intermediate eminent saint stage alone. Whether it was Zhang Qishan or Feng Biyuyi, both of them did not believe Dugu's words even though they did not dare to voice it out. If they had done that, it would be equal to contradicting their leader. They did not have the courage to do that. He's just a mere intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivator, but he actually dares to issue a death duel invitation to our Dragon Clan's future clan leader. What a fool. That's right. The future clan leader of our Dragon Clan is a powerhouse at the early exemplary saint stage. Just like he said, it would be as easy as killing an ant for him to kill an intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivator. He's destined to die for provoking and humiliating a member of our dragon clan. Most of the members from the dragon clan present on the scene were extremely excited as they looked at Diju and Duan Lingtian stand opposite each other. Kill him, kill him. Many dragon clan's members who were more hot-tempered chanted loudly for Diju to kill Duan Lingtian. No different from killing an ant. Duan Lingtian's gaze turned colder, and he smirked when he heard Diju's remark that was filled with ridicule and disdain. I'd like to see how you, the future clan leader of the dragon clan, are going to kill me like how one would kill an ant. Your wish is my command. Diju smirked coldly before he began to make his move under the watchful eyes of the others. Swoosh. Diju's figure moved as it seemed to transform into a bolt of lightning that soared in the sky as he made his way to Duan Lingtian. He did not use his full strength, his speed now was on par with a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. In his opinion, there was no way Duan Lingtian would be able to match this speed. Duan Lingtian only chuckled when he saw Diju charging at him. Did he really look down on him so much? At lightning speed, the 99 saint veins inside Duan Lingtian's body began to churn in a frenzy as he muttered to himself, since you've presented me with this chance, I'd let you down if I don't cherish this chance. Meanwhile, his son True Origin surged out as well. Whoosh, whoosh. In just an instant, a pair of huge golden wings appeared on his back. It was the golden crow's wings. At the same time, an all-black 3-foot-long spear appeared in his hand as well. Despite its ordinary appearance, if one paid closer attention, one would be able to see 10 obvious signs of saint inscriptions. It was a 10 inscription saint weapon. In the Dao martial saint land, other than the super saint weapon, the heaven rank prominent saint weapon was the highest grade of a saint weapon. If one wanted to further enhance this saint weapon that had reached its limit, there was only one method, and that was to inscribe saint inscriptions. The force of a single saint inscription was greatly helpful to those below the divine saint stage, but it could only be used against a powerhouse below the divine saint stage. To those at the divine saint stage and above, no matter how high the grade of the saint inscription was, it would only be a saint inscription that boosted the saint weapon. Naturally, the higher the grade of the saint inscription, the greater the boost would be. The 10 inscription saint weapon was a heaven rank prominent saint weapon that was inscribed with 10 saint inscriptions. Usually, such a weapon would only be able to be inscribed by a 7-star saint inscription master or above. In the Dao martial saint land, the 10 inscription saint weapon could be considered as a rare saint weapon. There were not many of them even in quasi-third-rate forces. This 10 inscription saint weapon in Duan Lingtian's hand was given to him by his father when they left the Azure Cloud Mansion during their journey to the Dragon Clan's lair. Swoosh! At the instant when the golden wings appeared behind Duan Lingtian's back, golden flames appeared and surged up from the 10 inscription saint weapon as well. It emitted a terrifying aura like the sun. Chapter 1860. Rumble, rumble. A loud noise echoed in the air, it seemed as though the sky was being blown apart. As it turned out, it was due to the flapping of the golden crow's wings behind Duan Lingtian's back. It set off a flurry of hurricanes, causing explosions in the air. During the uproar, before anyone knew what was going on, Leader Dugu, Mansion Master Duan Rufeng, and Clan Leader Dishan had various expressions fleeting across their faces. Dugu's expression was a knowing one, as though he had already expected this. Duan Rufeng's expression was one of delight and surprise. As for Dishan, he had the most splendid expression on his face. It was one of extreme shock and disbelief. Whoosh! In the eyes of these three men, a meteor-like golden figure charged out rapidly toward Diju. His speed was so fast that it was in no way inferior to Diju's current speed. Although currently Diju was not using his full speed, it was on par with a martial or Dao cultivator at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian's speed was on par with his. Was he really an intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivator? Impossible. Whether it was Qmi from the Azure Cloud Mansion, the 2 deputy leaders from the Mountainshade Black Market, or the few 5-clawed divine dragon elders from the Dragon Clan, all of their expressions were similar to the expression on Diju's face when they regained their senses. They were filled with disbelief and confusion. The scene unfolding before their eyes had overturned their views and knowledge of a powerhouse at the eminent saint stage powerhouse. An intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivator actually possessed speed on par with a powerhouse at the peak of the divine saint stage. This was a joke, right? It's a divine ability. Dugu, Duan Rufeng, and Di Shan had already figured things out when Ku Mi and the others regained their senses. The reason Duan Lingtian possessed such fast speed was due to an extremely amazing divine ability. As for the aura emitted by the energy surging out of his body, it was equivalent to the energy of a divine saint stage martial or Tao cultivator. With this energy, he had used the divine ability to give himself the speed of a powerhouse at the peak of the divine saint stage. This divine ability made a thought pop up in their minds. It's a high-grade movement divine ability. Not only that, but it seemed like Duan Lingtian had profound knowledge of this high-grade movement divine ability as well. Based on how skillful he was, it was apparent that he had already mastered the quintessence of this divine ability. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for his speed to rise so quickly. Otherworldly Celestial. With the help from Golden Crow's wings, Duan Lingtian quickly arrived near Diju. When Diju regained his senses, and horror dawned on his face, Duan Lingtian's body suddenly moved. Whoosh, whoosh. In the next instant, two solidified figures that were identical to Duan Lingtian had appeared on either side of him. Not only that, but they also possessed a pair of Golden Crow's wings as well and were holding a 10 inscription saint sword in their hands respectively. This was a technique of the high-grade sword-type divine ability, the Otherworldly Celestial. Ever since he first mastered the elementary devouring tactic, he had tried to master the Otherworldly Celestial. Initially, he did not expect much. However, as it turned out, he managed to successfully comprehend the Otherworldly Celestial in a short amount of time. Naturally, he soon discovered he was able to comprehend the divine ability so quickly was all thanks to the Sovereign Heart Sword. The Sovereign Heart Sword was the supreme sword Tao mental cultivation method, and the sword profundity contained in it was on par, if not superior, to martial tactics. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not bother cultivating other martial tactics. During the process of comprehending the high-grade sword-type divine ability, the Otherworldly Celestial, he discovered the sword profundity of the Sovereign Heart Sword had many similarities with the Otherworldly Celestial. Since they were both compatible, his process of comprehending the Otherworldly Celestial had progressed at a tremendous pace. In the end, it had only taken him a fraction of the time he spent comprehending the elementary devouring tactic to comprehend the Otherworldly Celestial. Although he had comprehended the Otherworldly Celestial, he was only at the rudiment stage and could only produce 2 clones. Despite the fact that the strength of the clone formed by the Otherworldly Celestial was inferior to the real person, the gap between their strength was negligible. The Otherworldly Celestial that Duan Lingtian cast by relying on the profundity of the Sovereign Heart Sword that was close to the 3rd stage could cast attacks that were equivalent to an outstanding martial cultivator at the Mastery Divine Saint stage. His 2 clones, on the other hand, possessed strength equivalent to ordinary martial cultivators at the Mastery Divine Saint stage. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The original person, 2 clones, and 3 10 inscription saint swords flashed across the sky and charged toward Diju accompanied by the sound of slashing. The 3 swords that the 3 figures wielded were pointed at different directions, leaving no room for Diju to escape at all. How is he so powerful? This was the first thought that appeared in Diju's mind when he saw the speed Duan Lingtian demonstrated. He was still in disbelief over the scene that had unfolded before his eyes. An ant whose cultivation base was at the Saint Rudiment stage 5 years ago had actually become so powerful now. He felt as though he was dreaming. Diju jolted back to reality as 3 sharp swords were pointed at him. Although I'm stronger than him, I've fallen into a disadvantageous position because I looked down on him from the very start. Even if I use all my strength now, I still won't be able to gather enough strength to overpower him unless I revert into my true form. Diju's mind whirled rapidly at this time at lightning speed. Due to the reason he had looked down Duan Lingtian from the start, he had only used strength that was equivalent to a martial or Tao cultivator at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. Currently, Duan Lingtian was charging at him at a speed that was not inferior to his speed. It caught him off guard. Under such circumstances, he did not have time to gather his strength to strike back unless he reverted to his true form. However, if he reverted to his true form after just 1 strike from Duan Lingtian, it would undoubtedly be a great humiliation to him. Due to this reason, he quickly dismissed the idea. Whoosh! At the critical moment, faced with Duan Lingtian's 3 swords that blocked his path, Diju finally took out an exceptionally heavy broad saber that also had 10 inscriptions on it. It was apparent that this was also a 10 inscription saint weapon. Gigantesque wallop! The moment the 10 inscription saint saber appeared in his hand, the aura on Diju changed completely in an instant. His entire person seemed to have transformed into a saber that released a sharp aura. At the same time, his energy at the early exemplary saint stage had also begun to surge out. Naturally, in this short window of time, he had no time to gather his full strength at all. All he could do was slash his saber out at the fastest speed possible. However, apart from being slightly weaker, the saber was extraordinary as well since it contained saber-type martial tactics that Diju cultivated. It was a medium-grade saber-type divine ability that was known as Gigantesque Wallop. Swish! The saber slashed out and a streak of saber rays shot out heading in the direction of Duan Lingtian's head as though it was going to slice him into two. Naturally, its target was one of Duan Lingtian's two clones. When Diju slashed his saber out, his energy at the early exemplary saint stage that was surging out of his body also gradually began to show itself as he charged toward the clone he had targeted. Swish! Whoosh! A saber slashed down as a sword sliced out. The saber slashed Duan Lingtian's clone into two while the sword landed on Diju's shoulders, leaving a horrendous and bloody wound behind. Swoosh! As fresh blood splattered everywhere and fell from the sky like red roses, Diju's body that was covered with blood charged to the distance at an increasing speed. He was fleeing from the attack of Duan Lingtian and his remaining clone. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the instant Diju was about to escape, Duan Lingtian discovered this. He and his clone simultaneously attacked as both their swords landed on Diju's back. However, due to Diju being able to use his speed at the early exemplary saint stage, the swords did not manage to seriously injure him. They merely left him with light injuries. They did not pose any threat to his life at all and did not affect his strength. Whoosh! Whoosh! Under the watchful eyes of the others, Diju fled several hundred meters away before he finally came to a halt. As for Duan Lingtian, he had already retracted his clone and was hovering with his sword in his hand in the distance. Everything had happened in just a blink of an eye. It was so fast that most people could not see clearly at all. However, at this moment, even those who did not see clearly could not help but gasp when they saw how one collision between Duan Lingtian and Diju ended up with Duan Lingtian unharmed and Diju injured. How is this possible? The eyes of a young member of the dragon clan turned as wide as saucers. He had an expression of disbelief on his face. I'm not dreaming, right? Many members of the dragon clan pinched their thighs or slapped themselves. It was only when they felt the pain that they became certain the scene that unfolded before their eyes was not a dream. It was all real. Duan Lingtian had gained the upper hand during their first clash. A young disciple from a quasi-third-rate force muttered with a dumbfounded expression on his face, "Isn't the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion an intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivator? Not only that, but isn't Diju an early exemplary saint stage powerhouse? Can somebody please tell me what the hell is going on? Is this really a battle between an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse and an early exemplary saint stage powerhouse? You're joking, right?" Many people expressed their doubts. Naturally, these people who felt skeptical did not clearly see the collision earlier between Duan Lingtian and Diju. Those who could see the details and those who could roughly see the details returned to their senses later than the masses. This was because they were shocked by what had just taken place. A high-ranking official of a quasi-third-rate force remarked solemnly, "The speed of the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is equivalent to a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. His speed far surpassed ordinary mastery Divine Saint stage powerhouses." But, as though he was reminded of something, he asked in confusion, "Can anybody tell me why his cultivation base is only at the intermediate eminent saint stage when I probed him? Is this even the strength of an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse?" He was not the only confused one. Even the group of Dragon Clan's high-ranking officials, including clan leader Dishan, had a grim expression on their faces. This was because they had been deceived.